Good evening. Welcome to the first ever on TV Conservation Commission meeting. It's 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. First on my agenda is I would like to shout out a big thank you to the Spear Family Trust for their donation of a lawnmower for the Lane property.
Yes.
We appreciate that very much. Second, there's some political, due to the COVID, we're have to do things differently. We have a remote. And by the way, I am Robert Bodie, the chair of the commission. On my left is Jim Marsh. My right is Judy Johnson, Peter Atanasoff, and David Apaka. Rich Galimi and Jeff Ames are on remote, as is our agent, Jane Pierce. I don't see her yet, but she should be on remote. We're doing this, keeping with Governor Baker's orders for public meetings. There's a lot of ground rules for that, but we will try to go through it. So with that, we have open meeting. Any public comments? All right, Neponset Reservoir update on the progress. Mr. Lewis.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us. I just came with a couple maps, and we've been emailing various updates in to Jane, and I hope she's passing those along or circulating those and so forth. Last Thursday, Solitude, Colin is online there too, right there.
The
middle, second row down. He's from Solitude.
Okay.
His company went out and did the this year's weed treatment program. We had two invasive species that we treated. This was sent in, but in case you hadn't seen it, but the red there, this is the variable milfoil areas. We had about 70 acres of that, and then we had this is the fanwort, and we had 40-something acres of that that we treated. So this is we only treated for invasive species this year, where the last 2 years we've also treated for pondweed because it was so overgrown and dense. But we kept it a little bit simpler, but it's still over 100 acres of the reservoir was actually treated this year.
And what's the total acreage of the reservoir?
About 310.
Okay.
So roughly a third of the reservoir. This is was treated, and that's about what we treated for the last 2 years, is about that same area in total. So, but that treatment went well. Colin, do you want to make any comments on the treatment program? Or we got the survey done early, so, and then treatment was reasonably early, so we hope for some good success on that.
Yeah, I'd just echo that. I thought this year worked out real well. We're able to do the treatment, not probably like 2 weeks after the initial survey. Historically, sometimes it's almost a month later and the plants change. So worked real well. Plants were up in the water column, but they weren't all topped out. So less biomass to deal with. So I thought this year worked out real well.
Okay, thank you.
It takes about 1 to 2 weeks before we'll actually see any kind of effects of the treatment. And then Solitude also posted around the reservoir signs letting people know that the treatment was going on.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments from the board?
No.
David? Peter?
No.
Judy?
The other update.
Okay, Jeff, any comments?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Rich?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jane? Okay, all right.
I'm here,
Oh,
Oh, okay, any comments for?
trying to get my face up.
Any comments for Mr. Lewis? Jane?
She muted herself.
Oh, from me?
Yeah, any comments?
No, no, he's done a really good job of keeping me up to date, and I have forwarded information to you
Yes.
that I've received from him.
I appreciate with everything going on, the way it has been with no meetings and everything else and stuff. So doing things over the internet and emails and so forth has been great to keep this moving forward, because if we let this go too far into the summer, the weed treatment is very ineffective. We found that out a couple of years back when we ended up treating in July, and we had very little effect on the weeds at that point. So, two other projects that we've been doing, we sent in some drone pictures
Very
of
nice.
Edwards Road.
Yes.
And one of the people on our group is going to be putting together a little article about the work that we've been accomplishing there. That has gotten some great feedback. We probably didn't make the parking lot big enough.
No, it's
because
just the right size.
just the right size. But there's it gets a lot of use, particularly in the weekends. So I've seen a lot of smiling faces out there on the reservoir that they were very happy to have that and be able to access the reservoir through that.
Now, there wasn't anything in the reporter about it, was it?
No, we have not put anything in the reporter, and the reporter hasn't
Yeah.
come out to do
Yeah.
anything that
Yeah.
I'm aware of
Okay.
at this stage. So, and then the second thing is we have completed all the work on that portion of the project. The remaining portion of the project is for the treatment of the stormwater effluent, and we've gone back and forth with the engineering design group, a couple different other groups to try to get feedback if there's any other alternatives. But we're looking at having to move forward, not having to, but we're going to move forward with installation of the jellyfish filtration system. So that will effectively treat the water that's coming down Edwards Road from I guess that's the west side of Edwards Road, down towards that area. The outfall is so low that we just couldn't use any of the more conventional wetland applications as a filtration system. We had to do an inline filtration system, which is, the reviews on it is very positive, but it's also quite expensive.
Yes, yeah, so definitely. Okay.
Well,
Good.
I did go down, I was going down Edwards Road, so I just stopped, and there were three kids down there fishing, and then another carload of kids arrived, and, so I just wanted to say that I saw that it was getting use, and I like that kind of use too, fishing and kids getting together, so.
Almost every day, the parking lot is full, and on the weekend, I counted 16 cars went, so there's only 7 spaces.
Wow.
And there were cars up and down, and there were multiple groups with their kayaks and their small boats, and there were children, and there were carriages, and there were dogs, and we kind of, they had a trash barrel there that's been removed. It oftentimes was overflowing. There's that balance between, I haven't seen it be really too messy down there. I think there's so many people there now, they're self-policing.
Okay.
So people aren't, the trash isn't there. I don't know that the trash barrel maybe just made things worse. We're gonna keep an eye on it. Because at first we were like, really taken back. They took away the trash barrel. We're really trying to keep this a beautiful spot.
Yes.
But it may have worked like the Lane property. It may have worked in reverse, that there's so many people there, there's much less trash. And it's just getting lots of use.
I don't know, maybe a sign that we could put up, take out what you bring in, yeah.
We have one being made.
Okay,
Oh,
good,
good.
fantastic.
Yeah, I forgot. I did notice there was, when I was there, the trash barrel was there and it was overflowing. But, that's something that you're working on, so
Yeah,
It's
I
always a
contacted the
problem.
town about that one, and then Jane asked me also to contact them about the Lane property, because we had the same problem there. People had collected trash in front of the education building there.
yeah.
But they'd left it, and
Yeah.
they'd left it for a long time.
Yeah.
So, the town has gone by on both properties and cleared that stuff out. But then they said those were the only trash cans they really leave out any place in town, and they really don't want to be in the trash collection business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
people
understand.
can take out what they bring in, so.
Yes.
Yes, and be responsible about it.
So we'll keep our eye on that.
Good job.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
Nope.
One more thing, the
Yes.
lake level, Chris Gallagher has been doing just a great job at being responsive to, we had
Boards,
a
yes.
lot of rain this spring, and just now, he's put back one board than another, and then I just went today, it's still lower despite the fifth board being back in. So we'll put the last board back in hopefully this week and
Okay.
try and keep that water level high.
Okay, good. Rich, any comments?
No, I'm good. No, the boat launch looks terrific, and it is great that it's getting so much use.
Good, thank you. Jeff?
No, I'm all set. No, that's good.
Okay, thank you. Don't want to forget you sitting over there on my left there. Okay, thank you very much. for
Okay,
coming in.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Be safe.
Thank you, likewise.
It's 7:05. We have a request. David, you want to? And it's change that Mechanic Street to Chestnut Street, please, because it is nowhere near Mechanic Street.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
A Foxborough Conservation Commission notice of a public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. The Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, June 1st, 2020, at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a request for determination of applicability filed by Brian Harkley, sorry about that, for an Eagle Scout project to repair bridges on a trail that runs along the Ponset Reservoir at the Chestnut Street Conservation Area within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. Application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at the Town Hall, Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found in the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you, David. Brian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
So
I cannot hear you. Okay.
you can? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I can hardly hear you. Can you speak up a little bit?
Wait. I'm looking
Could you
at
tell us what-
my. So is my audio good now?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Alright. So my name is Brian Harolshu, and I am here to present my Eagle Scout project. My project is located just off Chestnut Street on a trail that leads from that road to the Lane property by the train tracks. The bridges on this trail are in bad condition, with one bridge tilting and not reaching the other side of the water, and multiple broken boards on each bridge. This trail has 3 bridges, and the first one is fine and doesn't need any changes, but the second and third bridges do. My project includes leveling out the second bridge on the trail as it has a slope to one side, which could be a safety issue, and replacing boards on both the second and third bridges on the trail, and making a smaller platform in the middle of the two to bridge the gap between the first bridge and the dry land in between. I hope that this project will make the trail safer and that more people will use it. I also have some pictures from the trail, if I can share my screen.
All right, by me. Wait, when I got,
He's working on it.
while he's working on that, can you still hear me, Brian?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. What troop are you with?
I'm with Troop 7.
Okay. Do you know Dan Goronsky from Troop 32 by any chance?
I've heard the name.
Okay. He built the first bridge on the Lane property going out to the point right beyond the dam. I was wondering if your model is similar to his. If not, maybe his has been very successful. So maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe you can get some information from him.
Yeah. I do have some pictures of what I'm planning to do.
Okay.
But I can't. Oh, now I can screen share. All right. Can you see this?
Yes. Yes, we can.
So this is my this is the plan I have for it, which is showing the current two bridges and some planks that need to be replaced on them, and also like a top-down view and a side view of the platform I'm planning to put in the middle. And also it shows where it's going to be on the trail.
Brian, are you going to replace these bridges entirely, or are you just going to repair them?
I will just be repairing them.
Okay, so they already have a kind of a design.
Okay. Will they possibly meet the ADA requirements? Do you know what ADA, by the way? I shouldn't.
I do not.
Okay, it's the disabled, what's the proper thing for that, David? American Disabilities Act, is that?
Yep.
Yeah. So if there are any handicapped people that want to use it, within reason, be able to use it.
Yeah, because I'm going to be like extending in a way, making a platform that goes over the water, which will make it a lot easier if there are any disabled people who want to go on the trail. So it will be much better for that.
All right.
I do have some pictures of of how it currently looks, which shows why it needs this platform.
Okay.
So I'll share those right now. So when you're going on the trail, this is the beginning of the second bridge, and you can see that it has a tilt on it. And if you go down that and look backwards, you'll see that it has a large gap between the bridge and the land.
Yes. Yep.
And this is where I'll be putting the platform.
Okay. Now, are the supports there still strong enough for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be adding some extra supports underneath,
Okay.
but just to like raise it up a little bit out of the water. But Yeah, for the majority, it's still structurally sound. And this is the third bridge, and you can see that some of the planks are missing.
So on the first bridge with the tilt, will you be repairing the tilt so it will be flat?
Yes,
Okay.
and that's why I'm going to be adding the extra supports underneath to flatten it out.
Okay.
All right.
All good.
David? David, any comments?
No, it seems like it's a repair. So he's not going to be bringing in any long poles. But I think the support to lift it out of the water shouldn't be wood or logs. It should be the screw, forgot what they call this.
The helix screws?
Yeah, just screws in that it hits a solid sand and gravel, and it can be adjusted so that it lifts everything up and it'll last for a long time. And it's less disruptive to the wetland bank or the wetland area there that does flood sometimes in the springtime or when you get the heavy rains. It's a little more work because you got to get into the muck, to get those in.
Yep.
But that's the only way to keep it from tilting later on if you put wooden supports underneath it.
Okay. Peter, any comments?
I was going to ask David, in inspecting the bridge, you had the one picture where there were planks missing. Have you looked at any other planks? Is there any other wood or any other pieces on there that are on their way out or are in need of replacement as well?
Yes, there are, and I do have those planks marked down. There are several of them that are bending a lot,
Okay.
so I will also be replacing those.
Okay. Anything else, Judy? Jim? Jeff?
Yeah, I've got a number of questions. How much investigation did you do when you were actually looking at it? Did you lift it up? Did you really inspect, or you just visually look from the top down?
Well, I can't actually lift it up. I'm not really strong enough to do that myself. I looked from the side and the top, and I couldn't really get underneath it.
Because I have a concern. I mean, obviously there's damage on some parts, and I have a concern that without really investigating what's going on, we're going to be doing. There'll be some work done that may either make it more hazardous because there's degraded lumber underneath that has to get replaced, or the whole thing's got to get replaced anyway. I'm concerned that there hasn't been enough inspection of this to go ahead with this yet.
Okay.
Anything else, Jeff?
Nope.
Okay. Rich?
Yeah, I was there today, and these bridges, what's supporting them are they look like telephone poles.
Yeah.
So what Brian's trying to do, I think, to level it, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, your intention is to move the floorboards, so to speak, and slide wood underneath those to level them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. You can't lift or move these bridges. They're huge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I did actually figure out why it was tilting, and that is because if you look at the very beginning of the bridge, on one side there's a log underneath, but there's not a log on the other side.
Yeah, it's uneven to begin with. And as far as the handicap, Bob, there's no way for a handicap wheelchair or person to get there, at least not from the Chestnut Street area. It's
Yeah,
hard
it
to
would be
navigate
very
as a
difficult
visitor.
from either side, quite frankly,
Yeah.
because it's, but it just, I just feel that everything we do should try to
Right.
meet as much as possible the ADA standards. So,
Yeah. But the bridge is in, that, especially that one that tilts, and these are old, so they've got moss on them, so they're slippery on top of all that. I think, I mean, if the commission wants to go out and look at it, I think you'll see that there's
Yeah,
not
I've been out
much
there a
to.
number of times. And
You're gonna get a good bang for your buck if we just straighten it out and level the boards and replace the boards.
okay. Brian, one other small thing, and not really too small, as you continue the trail going on towards the the Learning Center, you'll see that a very large tree has fallen across the trail. Is there any way that you can get somebody to help you and remove enough of the tree so the trail can be back to its original site?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay. Because right now they have to take a little detour on either side because that's a very large tree down there.
Rich, just to let you know, this is one of the 5 trails that we have sort of designated as potential trail accessibility projects in the future. As part of the survey of all the conservation areas. So that's why Bob and I asked about the questions about if you're going to do something, why do it twice if you can make it accessible now and we can finish it up later when we go out and make this trail accessible to the point where there's a bench that sits up above the water.
Well, that would probably require redoing the entire deck because it's too narrow.
Right, it is too narrow now.
And there's no edges on the side to prevent a wheelchair from going over it.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a major role. You want to do that and wait, not let Brian do the repair? Or?
Now, I think due to the actual trail configuration, I think the repairs now would be the best option. In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I would think so too, because right now it's dangerous and
Okay.
you know, there's little options to repair it, repair it.
All right, now, I'm not sure. Do you have anything else to add, Brian?
Not off the top of my head right now.
Okay. Diana, on the technicalities about anybody from other than the members here commenting, is there any way that they can zoom in or?
We did the Zoom basically by invite only.
Okay.
So they'd have to watch the cable and then submit any comments they have, and we'd have to address it at the next meeting.
Okay, so
And
technically,
approve it in spirit, I guess. And
yeah.
sign it and then.
Okay, because the determination usually is done in one night.
But all the tolling stuff is
Yeah.
on hold because of the emergency order.
All right.
That is 45 days after the emergency order expires and it hasn't expired yet, so.
Okay.
Maybe July 1st.
All right. Okay, so without that, somebody want to make a motion to issue a negative determination pending all the rules and regulations?
Why is Jane?
What?
Why is Jane?
Oh, Jane, did you want to say anything? Jane?
To unmute myself first. No, I don't. I think that just a regular negative determination should be good.
Okay.
He's doing a big service for the town because it really is a hazard right now, the bridges.
So you want to make that?
Sure, I'll
motion?
make that motion.
Okay, second. Discussion. All in favor of negative determination?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None? All right, thank you.
A
Brian?
negative is good.
A negative is
Yeah.
good for you.
Negative means
You're
no
concerned,
more
Brian, so,
trouble.
okay, thank you very much, Brian.
Thank
All
you
right,
for
thank you very much.
helping us out.
It being 7:10 PM, we have West Street request for NOI, David?
The Foxborough Conservation Commission notice of a public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, March 23rd?
Well, that's when they're originally supposed to be, but just
Okay, Monday, March 23rd, 2020, at 7:05 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a notice of intent filed by Christopher Gallagher, Foxborough Department of Public Works, to repair and stabilize the West Street Dam at West Street, right away between South Street and Mill Street. Assessors map 152, parcel 3931. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of a resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office at the Town Hall, Monday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Okay, thank you, David. Mr. Gallagher,
Well, hello there.
good evening.
All right, so I appreciate getting to this point. I know that we were originally scheduled a couple months ago when the world got flipped upside down. So it's given us a little extra time to figure some other things out. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing for us. We have the West Street Dam right at Ellie's Pond that we've been looking at for a number of years now. We've been working with environmental partners on initially the phase 1 study, and then we moved into the phase 2, and that's kind of brought us to the point of actually looking at the reconstruction of the dam. We did look at whether we could breach the dam and get it out of the Office of Dam Safety's classification. That was not an option when we looked at it. So we are here now looking for kind of the final steps to being able to put this project out to bid. We are at a point right now where the construction won't be until 2021. Originally, we were hoping to get it in this summer, but just too many obstacles got in our way. So with that, I do have Ryan Trahan with Environmental Partners, along with Sarah and Maria. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and his team.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening. Thanks for hearing us tonight. It's obviously a unique situation over Zoom, but it seems like between these and many happy hours that everyone's attending, I think everyone's getting used to it now. But I just wanted to touch on our project background tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the existing conditions. And what we're really going to spend time on is show you some visuals about the project impacts before the breach of the weir and dam, and after, to show the existing conditions and proposed conditions, and then get into the impacts to the wetland resource areas and riverfront area, and go step through those in detail. So it is a little bit of a lengthier presentation with lots of visuals. So myself, Maria, and Sarah will be stepping through this, and at any point in time, just feel free to stop us and ask a question, or we can even pause at a certain point and look to ask questions. Sarah, do you want to share the presentation, and then I can just kick it off?
Yeah, I need to be enabled to share my screen if that's possible.
I think it's coming through.
There you go. Okay.
So thanks, Sarah. So everyone knows, and I just want to reiterate what Chris mentioned before. We've been working with the DPW for about 4 years now. And this actual, once we did the phase 1 and phase 2 inspection, there was actually a grant opportunity through the state, which we helped the town secure, that went into all this modeling, design, and permitting work, which is current. So this work is being done by a grant. And late last year, we were able to secure the town another grant for the construction funds of almost $800,000. As Chris mentioned, this permitting is one of the final hurdles to the project. And once the funding is secured, we'll then continue on and probably bid the project in early 2021 for construction, starting in summer 2021. So the West Street Dam is located along the Cohasset River. The dam crest is the road of West Street. It spans the entire length. And it is classified by Department of Conservation and Recreation, the Office of Dam Safety, as a small-sized significant hazard dam, and it's also in poor condition. So it is triggering about 2 to 4 different follow-up inspections every single year. So it is costing the town money as the months go by without fixing it. And we've been involved, as I mentioned before, since 2016. So we've been inspecting it regularly. We've done phase 1 inspections, follow-up inspections, and we did the phase 2 inspection, which was sort of a precursor to this study, which showed that breaching the dam could be feasible. And that's what helped us obtain the original grant to do the work that we're doing now. So the next slide, we're going to jump into a lot of the existing conditions, and I'm going to turn it over to Maria to talk about existing conditions. And then a little later on, Sarah will take over and talk a lot about the modeling activities that we've been doing on site.
Thanks, Ryan, and hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I work for Environmental Partners, and so I'll jump right into the existing conditions of West Street. If you've driven along West Street, you can tell that there is cracking and sagging in the pavement, in the roadway pavement. There is poor connection of the guardrail. Some have come loose, and Chris and his team have repaired many, but it's tough to keep up with all of those. And then there's large trees and bushes and just a lot of dense vegetation along either side of the road. So the primary spillway is a concrete structure with a corrugated metal culvert. The concrete structure is starting to fail. You can see cracks and spalling of the concrete. The culvert pipe is starting to corrode, and there's a couple of holes in the bottom that you can see when the pond is very low. And the culvert does not have sufficient capacity to pass larger storm events, which Sarah will get into later in the presentation. On the upstream slope, there are large diameter trees and overly steep slopes. You can see that there's a little bit of failure. There's a granite block that has sort of tumbled down the hill over the years. On the downstream side, there is a stone masonry retaining wall, but it has a very irregular and bulging alignment. So there's potential for failure there. And the utility poles and guardrail posts are starting to lean downstream. So there's 3 main components to this project. The first being the repair of the dam and replacement of the culvert, and then roadway improvements, and finally water main replacement work. So this project stems primarily from the need to repair the dam and bring it back into compliance with the Department of Conservation and Recreation Office of Dam Safety. That in turn will alleviate the risk of dam failure in the future. And then as a part of this project, we will be replacing the existing culvert with one that meets the Massachusetts stream crossing standards and will assist with wildlife crossing along West Street, and then improve the safety along West Street for vehicles and pedestrians, and finally increase the reliability of the town's water system by replacing the existing water main along West Street. So the Spillway removal and culvert replacement work will include removing the trees and roots along the upstream and downstream slopes of the dam, demolishing the existing concrete structure and culvert, and replacing the culvert with one that meets the stream crossing standards, and then replacing or repairing the downstream masonry retaining walls along the discharge channel, and stabilizing the slopes on either side of the road.
So you
The
said you're
road
going
wide-
to take the roots out as well as the trees? You're not going?
Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yep. The road widening work will take place just along the dam crest, so right across from the pond, and that will include widening the road and adding a sidewalk, and then replacing the guardrail on either side and replacing that retaining wall that we showed a picture of that had the irregular alignment. And then to mitigate the impacts of the increased impervious area due to the road widening, we'll be adding a deep sump catch basin and sediment forebay for stormwater management in that area. And finally, replacing the water main, which those extents are from South Street to Mill Street. So the water main, hydrants, valves, and services to each property will be replaced as part of that work. And now I'll hand it over to Sarah to get into the details about the hydraulic modeling.
Okay.
Thanks, Maria. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we've discussed, we've been working on this project for quite a while, and one of the first steps was really to understand the hydraulics of the area. So we started out with an existing conditions hydraulic model and looked at the watershed area that contributes to the West Street Dam. And we got this information off of Mass Stream Stats, which indicated that the entire watershed that drains to the West Street Dam site is approximately 4.7 square miles. It's quite large, and it extends through Foxborough, Norfolk, Walpole, and Wentham, and encompasses a few ponds and dams further upstream from West Street. We used precipitation data from the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association and analyzed 24-hour design storms. Since this is a dam and it's currently under the Office of Dam Safety Oversight, our basis of analysis was really the spillway design flood storm, which is defined as the 100-year storm event. This meant that any replacement culvert or outlet that we put in had to be able to pass the 100-year storm event. We use a PC Swim modeling software and looked at various storm events. The first one was the 2-year storm event, just to see what more smaller frequent storms would currently look like in the area. As we know, smaller storms can pass through the culvert just fine. There's no real flooding in the area. We use these visual graphics on the side, which show the peak water surface elevation during the storm event based on LiDAR data in the area. And then when we look at the 100-year storm event, you can see that there's much more water passing through both the upstream and downstream areas. And we do see that the model shows during the 100-year storm event, water overtops West Street by about a ½ inch and results in flooding both upstream and downstream. So once we established our existing conditions, we looked at a few proposed conditions alternatives. One we mentioned earlier was a full dam breach, which isn't shown on this slide, but that wasn't feasible right off the bat. The first alternative that we really modeled and looked at was removing the existing outlet control structure, the weir and arched culvert that you saw in the pictures earlier, and installing a culvert that met the mass stream crossing standards to the extent practical. Under this alternative, we were able to see that we could eliminate overtopping of West Street and facilitate wildlife crossing under West Street through the culvert. Under alternative 2, we looked at removing the existing weir while still maintaining the existing arched culvert. This wasn't recommended due to both the poor condition of the existing culvert and not meeting the mass stream crossing standards, which is one of the project goals. Under alternative 3, which was a no action alternative, obviously not feasible due to the poor condition of the structure and the repairs needed. Now, under that broad alternative 1, there were a couple ways that we could try and meet the mass stream crossing standards. And the first one that we looked at was installing a box culvert with a channel bottom using stream bed material rather than a concrete bottom. This alternative does eliminate any sort of overtopping at West Street. However, it doesn't help facilitate wildlife crossing under West Street and through the culvert, as the bottom would be submerged a majority of the time. The next alternative that we looked at was using a trapezoidal channel bottom. This alternative creates banks along the sides of the culvert. It's a larger opening to the culvert and allows for wildlife crossing under lower flow conditions, and also eliminates overtopping of West Street. This turned out to be the preferred alternative, and we did additional modeling to see kind of the extent of water surface elevations that we would see in the area. So similar to the existing conditions, we looked at the proposed conditions 2-year storm, where to get an example of storms. The preferred alternative storms has a better management
Losing the
of low
volume.
flows. There's no flooding observed upstream or downstream, and promotes wildlife crossing under West Street. Under the 100-year storm event, we alleviate the flooding in the upstream and downstream areas during the 100-year storm event, and have eliminated the potential for overtopping at West Street. Next, we really wanted to look into what might be the impacts to the pond and the area. And while we are removing kind of the weir stop logs, we still have a hydraulic constriction of at the culvert outlet. So we find that the pond itself, under the 2-year storm, for existing and proposed conditions, doesn't change all that much in terms of spread. We do find that there'll be about a foot of elevation difference in the water surface elevation. Now we do have kind of a table here, and this is in our NOI, showing how we meet the mass stream crossing standards. Would the board like me to run through this? Or the commission, do you want to hear each one?
No, I don't think.
What was that?
I don't think we have to go into all of the detail on it.
Okay.
Do you? No, okay.
So you want to go through each one?
No, No.
Okay. And then next we have some slides showing the impacts to all of the different wetland resource areas. Will be impacting the bank due to lowering the outlet of elevation and kind of the decrease in pond spread. We will be impacting the land underwater and waterway due to the removal of the existing structure and lowering the pond. And this will also convert 650 square feet of land underwater to bordering vegetated wetlands. And then we'll be impacting bordering vegetated wetlands, both permanent and temporary impacts. Permanent impacts due to slope stabilization, culvert replacement, road widening, temporary impacts due to the excavation and dewatering. We will be proposing a wetland replication area, which I'll show a picture of later on at the Cookasset River Preserve. All of the work is within the riverfront area due to the culvert replacement and road widening, both temporary and permanent impacts. And again, the work is within the bordering land subject to flooding, both permanent and temporary impacts due to the culvert replacement and road widening, and temporary impacts due to clearing and grubbing and local dewatering. Because of these impacts, we're proposing wetland replication further upstream at the Cookasset River Preserve. We've worked with Jane to kind of scout this location and take a portion of the previously filled parking area and turn it into a wetland replication area. It will reclaim some of the parking lot and will be a net environmental impact and benefit. The wetland replication will also include about 3,000 cubic feet of compensatory flood storage. Throughout the project, we'll have environmental protection measures out, including erosion control and sedimentation control devices, silt socks at catch basins, materials only delivered on an as-needed basis, dewatering bags as needed, a dissipator for the bypass pumping system, and sandbags to mitigate the transport of sediment during construction. You can see an example photo of sandbags with polylining. As we touched upon the construction schedule earlier, we anticipate the total construction duration to be 16 weeks, and that includes the water main and the dam work. The water main will be phased before the work at the West Street Dam area. The actual spillway removal and culvert replacement is closer to 4 to 6 weeks, and it will require a road closure. The project will be performed in accordance with the time of year restrictions. So we're looking at July 1st through September 30th for the culvert replacement and spillway removal. With that, we're happy to take any questions from the commission.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Judy?
So I'm curious, with the material that's inside the culvert to create the trapezoidal shape, it's important that material stays in place even after, say, a 100-year flood event. So how are you sizing that material to make sure that it remains in place even during those high velocities?
Yeah, the material will meet the stream crossing standards, and it'll be kind of a specified within our construction documents that it has to have a certain gradation and a certain percentage of various fines and larger diameter stream bed material.
Okay, but it wouldn't be typical of a stream bed because on a 100-year storm event, that stream bed material might move. This has to stay in place no matter what storm event goes through that culvert. So it has to be sized to withstand the velocities that go through the culvert at a 100-year flood event.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just going to move out of there.
Yeah.
So, okay, that would be my concern. I just want to make sure that material in the culvert remains there in that configuration.
Yeah, it'll be specified such that the contractor has to put a certain size material within the culvert that can withstand those velocities.
And we have a base of material at below the stream bed to help reduce scour as well, in addition to the stream bed material being on top of it.
Okay.
David, any questions, comments?
No.
Peter?
Nothing for me.
Okay, Jim?
As part of the project, the roadway in that area is going to be widened and a sidewalk. The roadway adjacent to that, is that going to be modified as well, or is just this one location?
So right now, we're just looking to take advantage of the project to do the widening and put a crosswalk within that stretch. I think we have about 300 feet of sidewalk, curbing, the new retaining wall, the guardrail that'll go in as part of this project. Down the road, it's possible. Right now, we're just taking advantage of the project, the filing, some grant funding, and then utilizing some other town funds to do that piece. But right now, we're just looking at that one stretch of the dam itself.
Okay.
Okay. Chris, a question for you. Since there is funding for this, by delaying it, are we in danger of losing the funding, or is that guaranteed?
No, we've already had that conversation with the state.
Okay.
They're going to carry it over for us. We will utilize some of it in FY21 to begin the project, ordering some of the material, getting some mobilization out there before July 1st next year. But the bulk of it will be after July 1st, 21. But we've already had that conversation with the state, so we're all set there to carry that money forward.
Good. Jane, or wait a minute, before you come in, Rich or Jeff, any questions, comments?
No, I'm good.
Rich?
Both good.
Okay, Jane, comments?
No, I don't have any comments. I've been meeting with Chris regularly and the applicants and the representatives, as have you and Judy a lot of the times. So we're staying up to snuff on all of what's going on. So no comments.
Okay, good.
Good question for Chris. Chris, if that mitigation area of the parking lot, if I recall, there's an old leaching field underneath there, just to make them aware that if they started digging and hitting it, could change the plans a little bit?
Yeah, we are aware of that. We actually have an old plan that shows where that leach field is for the bathhouse that used to be there. So we're using what was an existing plan to format what we'll be renovating over there, retrofitting.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Just want to personally thank everybody. It's been a long process, and the Conservation Commission has been a true partner with us, and with Chris and Lance and everyone at DPW. So it's a significant project for the town, a great grant project. So I just really want to say thank you for working with us through this whole process.
You're welcome, and been good working with you as well.
Bob?
Yes.
Question to you, Chris. Jane mentioned in her report that you were going to explain the Article 97 constraints and that maybe you have some resolution to prevent delays in getting legislation in that.
Sure. So when we finally got into the true survey work of the Article 97 land swap, it came up that in 1971, the Norfolk County engineers laid out a new portion of West Street in the vicinity of the dam, on the downstream portion. That layout was never built. However, they discontinued where the existing dam and roadway are at that same time. So when the surveyor was out there putting the plan together, he dug that information up and found the discontinuance documents from the county. So what that means moving forward is that the town does not have an existing layout there, nor does the county. So what the county is going to do is they will relay out the existing roadway, where the dam is, where the pavement is, where we drive now. So they will relay that out. At the same time, they will discontinue that 1971 layout that will never be built. What that does is it gives us that land swap that would have been required by Article 97 if the town actually owned that layout. So instead of going through that full legislative process, we get the same benefit, if not more, by the county discontinuing that 1971 layout and just relaying out and doing a taking over that existing roadway. So it's a much simpler process where the town will the selectmen will ask the county to lay out West Street as it was originally, discontinue that existing piece, and the county will do that. It'll take them about 30 days, depending on when they can put a meeting together. And then that's done. So we were able to avoid that Article 97 process.
Good, didn't hear. Do you know if we have a file number yet, or is that still to be determined? We have on here, that doesn't show one. 594. Okay. So, any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion to?
This is a notice of intent.
Well, yeah. Jane, can we close it pending any comments?
It would probably be a better idea to hold it open
Okay.
for comments and any revisions that may be made or anything like that, and specifics. I think you've got all the specifics that are needed. But if it's not going to be built till next year, does it matter, Chris?
Oh, we can hold off if it's the next meeting's in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I think we'll be okay on that front.
Is there any reason that you would need to get this, sooner rather than later, the order?
I mean, the sooner the better.
Of course, but it's not holding anything up, right?
No. Our hope and intention is to get through everything we need to, and have a bid document ready by sometime this fall, so we can have contractors lined up before the winter hits, so we know exactly who we're going to have out there next summer.
Okay, so it sounds like the only real non-specified information has to do with Judy's question and the size of the substrate for the interior of the culvert, which was going to be put into the construction document, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to specify what it would be, do you know, rather than leaving it kind of loose like that?
We could get back to you in time for the next meeting with either a updated cross-section or just a spec about what that material would be, if that would serve Judy.
The more information, the better, because
Okay.
we don't want to leave anything
Well, we'll,
for interpretation or modification later.
so, continue it.
Continue.
Yeah.
The next,
Miss-
the next meeting was supposed to be the 15th, but that's now town meeting, so our next meeting is June 29th.
June 29th, okay. Mr. Marsh makes a motion to continue it till June 29th.
Well, can you also add that Chris provide the additional information about the Article 97 requirement, that they've found a solution to this and add it to this notice of intent?
Did you hear that, Chris?
Yeah, I can write something up on that.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So do I hear a second to continue?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
I
Opposed?
Aye.
We got all ayes, okay, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna sign off for a bit, and I'll be back on hopefully.
All right. 7:15-ish about. We have a NOI, David?
Foxborough Conservation Commission, notice of a public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. The Conservation Commission will open a public hearing on Monday, June 1st, 2020, at 7:15 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a notice of intent filed by Christopher Gallagher, Foxborough Water Sewer Department, to implement wells 7R, 9R, and 10R at 11 Lamson Road, Assessors Map 48, Parcel 9. Portions of the proposed work lie within 100 feet of a resource area. The application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at the Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found in the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you, David. Mr. Gallagher, you're on again.
I'm still here. Still here. So we have been working very hard within the water department and the DPW to resolve a lot of the water issues from over the years. We've taken some very big steps in the last 10 to 12 years where we've added 2 treatment plants, one at Witch Pond, one at Oak Street, and we're currently under construction for the 3rd one to be open this summer down off of Pumping Station Road. The system over at Oak Street has 4 wells that are existing in place. We're currently only utilizing 2 of them. The other 2 have gotten to a point where they have no capacity. They're not pulling anything out of the ground. So wells 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the 4 that are existing. 7 and 8 are currently off and not pumping out any water out of the system into the system. Wells 9 and 10 are running roughly half capacity. We're getting 200 gallons a minute out of those 2 wells. We have been able to utilize well 10R on a temporary basis. That's the new well. It's in the ground, and we're pumping that water into the system. What we're looking to do is brand new wells, well 7, well 9, and well 10. The capacity we'll be able to pull out of the ground for those wells will surpass putting in a new well 8. So we're just looking to put 3 wells in the ground, and we'll decommission all 4 at the same time. So we're looking to do this work on a permanent basis sometime later this summer, early fall, sometime after the treatment plant at Pumping Station Road has been complete. So with me again is Ryan Trahan. He also has Alyssa Longo with him to walk through the NOI.
Thanks, Chris. Back again. And Chris keeps stealing all my thunder in my introduction, but he just does great. Chris does a great job of it. So Alyssa's going to share her screen, and we have a shorter presentation for you for this project. It's hopefully pretty straightforward. But as Chris mentioned, the town is seeing significant loss of pumping capacity at the Oak Street wells, specifically 7, 8, 9, and 10. Well 8 was located previously in an area directly adjacent to wetlands. And when we were doing some test well drilling about a year ago or so, there was no great location that we found that would not be so close to surface water. So, and with the little pumping capacity, we met with Chris and decided to just proceed with 7, 9, and 10. So these wells are located off Oak Street along Lamson Road. They all pump over to the Oak Street treatment plant. All the existing wells are over 50 years old, give or take. And generally in that time frame, based upon the construction during the 1960s of wells and the type of well screens that were utilized, they tend to approach their useful life at around this time. And the approved pumping capacity right now for those 3 wells is about almost 1,200 gallons a minute. And we're only getting about half of that right now. And that water is desperately needed even right now. As Chris mentioned, we're temporarily pumping until this project is approved and we push this forward sometime later this summer. We're temporarily pumping well 10R as a temporary setup into the raw water system now, and are mobilizing to do something similar at well 9 until we can get some of these permanent impacts done, permanent implementation, design and construction done and in service. As you know, the summertime leads to some of the highest water demands of the entire year. And we've also, this type of work also includes a lot of permitting with Mass DEP. So we have to do what's called a pump test approval report. And during the pump test, we had Jane walk the site with us, with our hydrogeologist. And for those projects, we have to pump the well for about 48 hours straight. And we found some good locations to put that water that was discharged from the well, from each of these wells. So that requires a permit to approve the report, and it also requires a permit for us to actually construct this source. So we have approval for well 10 already, but we'll be submitting wells 7 and 9 within a couple weeks to Mass DEP for the final permitting hurdle. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Alyssa to take it about some of the design and the location of these wells.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. I want to start with an overview of the Oak Street site, which we have Lamson Road, which runs across the page down to the Oak Street water treatment facility. Like Chris said, that treats the raw water from all the 4 well sites. Across the street from the treatment facility is the existing well 10 building, which houses the well and the pump. And then about 30 feet behind the existing building is the location of replacement well 10R. And that is where there currently is a temporary setup to get some emergency water. A little further down Lamson Road, we have existing well 7, which is it's housed in an underground vault. And then about 45 feet downhill from that vault is the location of the replacement well 7R. And then if you continue down this access road, you'll pass well 8, which is being abandoned and not replaced, like Chris and Ryan said, due to an inadequate location for a replacement well. And then further down this access road is the existing well 9 building, which houses the well and the pump. And then outside, about 30 feet from the building, is the location of the replacement well 9R. And so all these replacement wells have already been drilled and approved by Mass DEP, and we're looking to connect them into the system. This figure also shows the resource areas that are impacted by the work. We have the Rumford River, which is this dark blue line, and its associated 100-foot buffer and 200-foot buffer. The light blue line here delineates the FEMA flood zone. The orange area is priority or estimated habitat of rare species. And then there's some green and red here that delineates the wetland areas. We have those marked up by a wetland scientist around each of the sites. And you'll see those a little bit clearer on the upcoming slides. The work at well 7 starts here where the replacement well is. We're proposing to install a new submersible pump. We're going to install about 40 feet of ductile iron pipe to the existing vault, and we're going to tie into the existing piping that's already there. We'll also install some electrical and instrumentation conduit. We're proposing a hydrant assembly off of the new piping. And then to protect the new well, we are proposing a 10 by 10 area of crushed stone and filter fabric. And then we'd like to surround that area with some chain link fence for additional protection. Most of the work at well 7 is within the 25-foot wetland buffer, and that's because of the location of the existing well. You can see these green lines here delineate some wetlands to the left of the vault and then another wetland area to the right. So we're proposing to surround the whole site with filter stock during all construction work to protect those wetlands. And the work here is also within the 200-foot river buffer and the priority or estimated habitat. This figure is showing the proposed work at well 9. We have the replacement well here in the driveway. We're proposing to add a new well pump, about 30 feet of ductile iron pipe to the building. The pipe will come above grade just outside of the building. We'll go through the wall and then we'll tie into the existing piping that's in the building here. We're also proposing a hydrant assembly off the new piping, and we're proposing another area of crushed stone and filter fabric around the well to protect it. And then we also have some chain link fence around the whole area to protect that well and to protect the above ground piping outside of the building. Because this well is in the middle of the driveway, which is already a small space, we are proposing some clearing and grading over here to the east of the building. The grading here is proposed to match the existing slope, and that will just widen the driveway and provide a town maintenance access. The wetland scientists delineated a series of wetlands here to the east of the building and then also south of the building. So some of the work that we're doing here is within the 25-foot wetland buffer zone. And the only permanent impacts that are within the 25-foot buffer is this hydrant assembly here, and then this portion of the clearing and grading within this red buffer zone. The rest of the work is within the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. It's also within the 100-foot riverfront buffer zone and within the FEMA flood zone A. But none of the work here is within the priority or estimated habitat. And then the work at well 10 is very similar to the other two stations. We have the replacement pump already, the replacement well already drilled. We're gonna put in a new submersible well pump. We are proposing to install some piping to the building. It'll come above ground right outside, and then it'll enter into the existing building and tie into the piping that's there. So there will also be electrical and instrumentation conduit. There'll be one hydrant assembly off the new pipe. There'll be an area of crushed stone and filter fabric around the well. And then we're proposing a chain link fence around the entire area to protect the well and the piping. At well 10, you can see this green line is the 100-foot buffer area. And then this blue line here is the 200 riverfront area. So our wetland scientists delineated the wetlands and the mean high water for the Rumford River, both page south of our site. And so we're proposing this filter sock between the work and the wetlands for protection. Half of the work here is within the FEMA flood zone, and all of the work here is within the priority and estimated habitat. And I don't think I mentioned this, but as part of the work, we'll also be abandoning the existing 4 wells and demolishing the existing pumps at 7, 10, and 9. So I'm just going to walk through each of those 4 resource areas that are affected by the work, starting with bordering vegetated wetlands. None of our work is actually taking place in the wetlands. There's no impacts there, but we are within both the 25-foot and the 100-foot protective buffer zone. The permanent impacts include the hydrant assemblies, the crushed stone protective area, and the clearing and grading at well 9.
And then the temporary impacts come from the stabilized construction entrances, the filter sock for erosion control, and then the trenches that will be dug for installation of the pipe and the conduit. The priority and estimated habitat is shown here. All the work at well 9 is completely outside of the habitat, so there's no clearing or grubbing within NHESP areas. All of the work at 7 and 10 is taking place in previously disturbed areas, and that includes the hydrant assemblies, the crushed stone as the permanent impacts. And then temporary is going to be the filter sock for erosion control, the installation of your pipe and your conduit, and stabilized construction entrance at well 7. This figure is showing the river again with 100-foot and 200-foot buffer zones. So you can see well 9 is entirely with the 100-foot buffer. Well 7 is within the 200-foot buffer zone. And then well 10 down here is entirely within the 200-foot buffer zone as well. So again, the permanent impacts are your hydrant, your crushed stone for protection, and the clearing grading at well 9. And then your temporary impacts are associated with the filter sock, the trench installation, and the stabilized construction entrance. And then the last resource area that is affected is the bordering land subject to flooding. The FEMA map here is showing Zone A, flood zone, which affects all 3 of our sites. And the temporary impacts are the filter sock, the trenches for your utility installation, and then your stabilized construction entrance. And again, your permanent impacts come from the hydrant assemblies, the crushed stone for protection, and the clearing and grading at well 9. And then just to reiterate on what Chris Gallagher said, this project came about due to the town's need to meet their water demand, as some of their existing sources were getting diminished capacity. 2 of their wells are completely offline right now, with the other 2 only producing half of their original capacity. This project will help to restore that, and it will help to meet their need during the high use season, as they're currently already having to resort to these emergency temporary setups at well 10 and possibly at well 9 very shortly. So if you have any questions about the proposed work, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. David, I'll start with you. Any comments, questions?
No questions.
Peter?
No questions this time.
Judy?
I'm a little overwhelmed. It's an awful lot of information. And I guess I would like to go down to the site and kind of get a walk tour of the different areas.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Yeah, it's open. I've walked it many times.
Okay.
It's one of my walk-in areas.
Okay.
So
to see, so
You're part of that group then that likes to walk down there and pass the no trespassing signs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
On a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd just like to maybe take the plans and walk down there and see, the actual locations. When you close down the other wells, do you actually restore the areas in terms of vegetation, or?
Most of the other wells are sometimes even within the existing buildings as well. So like for well 10, we'll just be essentially pulling the pump and motor out. And then there's a protocol at Mass DEP we have to follow. We have to get a certified well driller and backfill the well with clean sand and gravel. And they have to submit a completion report, I believe, to the Board of Health and also to the state for approval before you decommission a large well. So there is a separate permitting process to decommission a public water supply that we do have to follow. So we'll be doing that for the 4 wells.
Okay, all right, so they're pretty close to the other wells, so there's no need for restoring vegetation or anything like that. Okay.
And a lot of the access that we've shown around the wells is the town needs to inspect these wells daily. And in the time where, say, if capacity begins to decline, there's a cleaning method that you can utilize to clean the wells, which is normally once every 2 to 3 years. A large drill rig has to sort of back up to the well area and pull the pump and motor, inspect it, clean it, look inside the well, put a camera down, and check things and make sure they're functioning properly. So that's the reason for the area around the wells, so we have to have stone and an area for a larger truck to drive.
Okay, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, how deep did you have to go with these new wells versus the ones that you're replacing?
Very, very similar depth. I believe some of the deepest ones maybe around 60 feet.
Okay.
50 to 60 feet.
Okay, thank you. Jim, anything?
Quick question. So you talked about these permanent impacts. Are most of these permanent impacts in previously disturbed areas already?
Yeah, all of our impacts are in previously disturbed areas, with the exception of that clearing and grading at well 9.
Okay. Jeff, Rich?
Well, I'm all set.
All set, thank you. Jane? Jane? Are you there?
She's giving you a thumbs up.
Giving you a thumbs up. No, I'm all set.
You're all set?
I was wondering about the depths too.
Okay, all right. Okay, again, with this, unless there's anything else, we'll tentatively close it pending any results from any write-ins or whatever. So, thank you very much.
So what, are you going to close it or are you going to leave it open?
Well, we tentatively, leave it open. We'll continue it. I guess technically we have to continue it till our next meeting, unless there's some reason you want to close, Chris.
Just, Chris, if I could, we probably could wait till the June 29th meeting. However, anything past that, we just don't want to interrupt the bid schedule. We'd love to include the order conditions into the specifications for the contractor to follow. And we're submitting this to DEP for their review on the well completion side in a couple weeks, and we anticipate them taking about a month to complete their review. And then sometime in August, we'd like to, late July or August, we'd like to go out to bid. So that's the timetable right now, is to start construction probably after Labor Day.
Okay. So we'll continue it then, and should have everything ready for you by the next meeting.
Bob?
Yes, Jane?
I could, up here on the screen, I could prepare an order of conditions that you all could review at the next meeting. So maybe send language in between and stuff, if I can get that together.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing to June 29th.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
None?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. It's only 7:20. David?
Foxboro Conservation Commission, notice of a public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act,
This is fair.
and Foxboro's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. The Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, March 23rd, 2020, at 7:10 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a request for determination of applicability filed by James Lenahan to allow clearing of additional wooded area behind the proposed house for additional backyard space at 45 Fairway Lane. Assessors map 154, parcel 21, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office in the Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Mr. Linehan.
Hey there.
Would you like to tell us what you'd like to do, please?
So the plan was approved for a certain amount of clearing of trees around where the proposed house is going to be sitting on the lot. I had a customer interested in the property that had asked me about clearing additional land for yard space. I just simply wanted to find out if that was going to be an option or what my parameters would be to provide that if somebody wanted to do that with the lot. I know it's specifically written on these plans, like where the limits of clearing are. But as long as I stuck within wetlands guidelines as far as where it could clear, I would assume you'd be able to do that, but just wanted to get clarification on that.
Okay, I was out there today. I was not able to walk all the way to the site because poison ivy and I do not get along. And there's plenty of it, but nothing has started yet. And my personal opinion is I don't think at this point in time that you should go beyond what the original plans are. I know there were waivers to get it what the plans call for at the present time. And I'm not in favor, quite frankly, of exceeding those plans without meeting the requirements at the first place. So I'll open it up for discussion amongst the board if anybody has any opinions. David, were you able to get out there?
No, but I remember the area after walking it a few times. But we were very specific when we worked with Bill on the engineering of the location of the house and what's to be cleared and what's, part of it's in the buffer zone and pulling away from the wetlands. We went through quite a bit and with the adjacent landowners, and this was what was agreed upon. And matter of fact, we actually gave them a little bit more open backyard, knowing that probably that they might be wanting to have, activities of kids or a pool or something out there. But, being in a buffer zone.
What's the setback for tree clearing typically?
I think it was more what work was occurring in the buffer zone and 100-foot and the no activity zones.
Yep.
That we worked with subdividing this land to have the less impact on those different conditions and environment and wildlife that's associated with this flow of water.
All right, but I just thought as long as I was staying away from whatever it was, the setback of 25 or 50 or whatever it is from the wetlands, just as if any other typical owner on the property, if say the future owner owns the property, and a couple of years from now he wants to clear trees, as long as he's outside of your typical setback requirements for tree clearing for any other house lot, isn't he in his rights to be able to do that?
Jane?
Jane?
I'm not doing it now.
What question are you asking?
I'm thinking ahead, that's all.
Yeah.
What did you want to know?
Would you repeat the question so she could hear you?
Yeah, so just, there's specific clearing limits for the property as defined on the plan now. I had a customer looking to buy the property. They were asking if they could do a bigger backyard. And I think I mentioned it with you before. That's why I'm here, just to get more clarification. But I would assume it would be within his rights to have more clearing space as long as you stay outside the guidelines of where the clearing limits are allowed to be for any property with a wetland. But I wanted to come here to get clarification before I told somebody that was a prospective buyer that, and then found out that it wasn't allowed.
Well, I'm wondering if you've looked at your planning board decision recently, because they really are much more specific than the order of conditions was. They required, because of the waivers, they required a number of things. So
Well, that's regardless, like, that's gonna happen anyway, that stuff, as far as like marking it out, that's for what I have now, but my homeowner asked me whether it was when I do it, when I build the house, or if it's, say, a year from now, after he owns the property, he says, I wanna make my backyard bigger, and as long as I'm not going closer to the wetlands. There's still quite a bit of upland dry area on the property. I'm sure he'd be able to use it for, one guy actually asked me if he could use part of the property to put an apple farm in, apple trees, on one of the higher ends, part of the property. I didn't have an answer for him, so that's why I'm here, so. I mean, obviously, you can't go within the wetlands or within the setbacks.
Honestly, it's for the commission to decide. It is within their jurisdiction, and it was part of the public hearing to go over all of these things in detail. So I'm just their expert. We get to make the decisions.
We would not be able to tell you right now that we could do this. They would have to come before us, and then we would, because this is within our jurisdiction, if they wanted to clear this extra lot, we would have to determine what the impacts of clearing that parcel would be on the wetland areas, the adjacent wetland areas.
But I'm assuming, well, what, if a person has a house lot now and they have trees and they have wetlands on the property, what's the setback that they're allowed to clear?
Well, we have no specific setback. You can't work within 25 feet of a buffer, but the rest of the area up till the 100-foot buffer, or in this case, there's a riverfront area, which is 200 feet. That area is also under our jurisdiction. And we would have to determine, based on the plan that you would present for cutting more trees, what the impact of cutting those trees and making that into an apple farm or whatever he wanted to do, how that would impact the adjacent wetland. That's our jurisdiction, is to protect the resource area. So even though there's upland, he wouldn't be able to cut everything that he owns. There would be impacts.
No, I would assume that, obviously, but I just
Thanks,
didn't know.
Judy, that was better said.
It's not as straightforward as zoning, so it's, it's not like 5 feet from the side that you have to have a setback, or 20 feet from the front of your lot.
That's what I'm asking, right?
It's not, it's not as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's case by case. And Judy just sort of went through how we sort of make that determination on the impacts and the benefits, and whether it's something that we'd allow the applicant to do.
All right. So what would I tell, say if somebody wants to buy the property, they want to put the house on it. I have specific clearing limits on the plan now, and they say to me, what if I wanted to go 20 more feet in this direction and have more grass? I'd have to tell them, can't.
You can only build according to the plans as far as...
At this time.
You can only build according to the plans, because that's what we've approved, and any additional work would have to be...
Come back in front of us. For review.
So, to determine what the impacts would be, based on what they wanted to do.
What triggers, just from my own knowledge, I guess, what triggers that as far as like what work does somebody do on their property that has to come in front of you guys for?
Within the buffers?
Within 100 feet of a wetland is our jurisdiction, 200 feet from riverfront, and this property has both.
Okay. So anything
So that whole area that you have hatched out is all within our jurisdiction.
Okay. I just want a clearance like that.
Yep.
All right. So I don't have a plan to do it, so it's not why I'm here, but just getting clarification on it. That's all. I guess that's my answer. All right.
It's clear as mud.
Right. Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. 7:25, David.
Eric's up there.
Oh. Eric, did you...
I know your meeting's going long, and I would thank the commission for their consideration, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one point of clarification. I mean, because he was here actually on a request for determination, right? So we do have to make a vote, whether it was
Okay.
positive or negative.
Well,
So I would make the motion
for
a
positive,
determination on
okay.
Mr. Lenahan's request.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
None, okay. So Eric is gonna file an NOI if he's gonna do anything.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck. Thank you very much, and good luck with your rest of your meeting there.
Okay.
Hold on. Eric.
Way better than I expected,
Eric.
actually.
Hang on, Eric.
Eric, just so you know, I mean, he did bring a request for determination, and someone who buys that property can do the same thing and come to us. I think what we decided tonight was a couple of things. There's a plan in place. There was no additional information to give us any clue as to what the impacts would be or whether or not it falls in our jurisdiction. I mean, review is triggered simply because it's within 100 feet, but we could say, yeah, it's a negative determination. We don't think there's a reason to go to a notice of intent in the hearing process. So when you said he needs to come for, if whoever wants to clear this area, the trees in that area, it's not just an NOI. They could present to us again an RFD. Do you understand? Yeah?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. But they're obviously going to have to provide much more information about what will happen with respect to what they're proposing and what they did tonight, essentially.
Right, and you guys would assess the impacts of that project on that current site right now?
Right, to the extent that we need to review it. And if we do, we would require a notice of intent. And then they would go through the entire process of a notice of intent.
Okay, I do understand that, Jim. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Hey, Dave.
Foxborough Conservation Commission, notice of a public hearing. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, March 23rd, 2020, at 7:15 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a request for determination of applicability filed by G. Green Properties to clear growth and trees that have overgrown on the site at 5 Springbrook Road, assesses map 94, parcel 19, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection in the Conservation Office at Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice can also be found on the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you, David. Mr. Green, would you like to tell us what would you like to tell us what you were planning on doing?
Did we lose Jeff?
All I was trying to do there was on the right side of my building and around the back side of the building, there was basically a trap rock drainage system put in that comes over to the head wall and riprap. We were just in there, we cleaned out the trap rock drainage, and I had trees that were growing into my gutters. I really just went in there to clean up kind of heavy maintenance on what had already been cleared at one time, probably back, I forget if it was like 95 or 97. And that's basically the extent of what I was doing.
Okay, I was out there this afternoon. It appeared on the face of the building, the right-hand side, that you cleared quite a bit more than was, won't say necessary, but it looked like it was a little bit more than necessary to me as far as the trees are concerned. There's a lot of underbrush that was close to the silt barrier that was been cleared out of there. What are you planning to do in that area?
All we were looking to do was to clean it up, and like I say, the trap rock drainage system that went around, kind of started at the back corner, came around the back and then up the side. Just trying to make the drainage actually function properly. We started at the head wall and we cleaned up all the riprap that was there. I had my vac truck go down and it actually vacked out the manholes out in the street. And then we, from what we could reach, without going into the retention area across the street, we were just cleaning it all up so it worked properly. Because the way, like I said, with all the overgrowth and what had built up there, none of the drainage was working correctly as it was designed.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you, I have kind of a plan here that Jane included in her management plan of the 1995 filing. Uh-oh.
Okay.
And
Okay, you're back, all right.
so was there a riprap drain that was around the two sides of your building in the back, and then it went around on one side?
Yes.
And you took that out?
No, it's still there.
It's still there, because when we were out there, I didn't see it.
If we blow it off, it's all still there.
Huh.
I didn't see.
And that would come around and connect to the head wall.
All I saw was a lot of,
It would look flat and dirt.
yeah.
No swale, riprap swale. In this picture, it went all the way down if you're facing the building, it went all the way down the right side of the building and then across the back. And it's.
Correct.
I didn't see anything like that out there.
You want me to put it on the screen, Judy?
Yes, please.
Okay, this should be a good trick, but let me do it.
Now, do you have pictures, Jane, or?
I do. I'm
Okay.
just not exactly certain how to do it. So let's see. Hold on. Bear with me. There's that. Okay. Well, I guess I offered before I was ready because I don't really know. Okay, wait a second. Share screen. All right. Yeah. Here it is. All right. How's that? Can you see it?
Yep,
Yes.
okay.
So Jane, do you have the cursor there?
I do.
So what I'm assuming is the riprap swale, because it has the detail there, is that area that looks like it's made of rock that goes around the back of the building and then up. Is that what
Yeah.
the riprap swale? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bob and I did not see any of that today. So I would like to have somebody point it out to me, and that looks like the limit of work at the building previously was that riprap swale.
And it says to be restored. This area here says to be restored, and this is what the riprap swale was supposed to look like.
And
Those are the
that's not
details.
there. Nothing like
Oh.
that is out there.
It looks like it's flat, it's cleared, all the understory is cleared over to some trees at the rock wall. The trees were left, but all the understory was cleared in that area. And it looks like the clearing has gone way beyond what the original plan was.
So this was taken when I went out there for the site visit initially, when they
Yeah.
were working on it. And this was when I went out the other day. That's the side area that is here.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all cleared, just all the understory is all gone, just the trees, and it's all dirt. No swale.
So the trees that were growing into the gutters will be on the swale. So none of the gutters were working, and anything that we cleaned up there, we took bumpers out of there, we took tires out of there, we cleaned a lot of trash out of there.
No doubt about that, but nevertheless, the swale is not there that I could see. And so I'm very confused.
Well, it just seems like this work went beyond what the plan for this building was, and so any additional work should have been reviewed through us because it's within our jurisdiction. And so I think that some of the area that's been cleared is going to have to be restored, and I would suggest that to start, the easiest thing just might be to not cut anymore and let the understory grow back. There might be enough roots in the understory to just have it grow back. If not, if it all starts coming up in non-native plants, invasive species, then you got a problem on your hands. But I'd also like to know about the swale. What was the purpose of the swale? If it's not there anymore, what's going to happen?
I believe the purpose of the swale was for the downspouts.
Okay, so now what are you going to do with the downspouts?
I believe, if I understand the drawing right, the downspouts run across, they hit the swale, and they run over to the head wall.
I see. So we did notice your downspout pipes were just kind of not going anywhere.
Right, that's how they work.
So
actually, none of them were working in January when I bought the property. Everything was full. Gutters were full. Like I said, in the backside where we cleaned, it was quite a bit of trees like laying on the building.
Okay. But there was a lot of other understory that was taken out that was not necessary. But I still.
Well, we need to address the roof vein, the gutters.
The runoff.
You know where that's going to go, and not expand any more cutting or anything, and then a portion of And then a portion of this has to be restored. I'm going to go the easiest route by saying don't cut anymore, and hopefully it'll come back. But I don't know. Should we go down there and have a site walk with them? And
yeah, because I'd like to see where the.
I would suggest that maybe just the three of us, so that you don't have a quorum.
Yeah.
Meet with him and
tell him what he needs to do.
Yeah. At least we got this plan that
Yeah.
in her report that we can use.
Jane?
Yes?
Are you going to be in town tomorrow? Did you?
Yes, I was planning on it.
Okay.
I have a 10:30 site visit,
Where?
Panis Road.
Okay. Do you want to make a different visit over on Springbrook Road, or whatever it is?
Springbrook.
Springbrook. Or should I just let Judy and Dave and I look at it?
Well, what time would you want to go?
Well,
When are you available?
I'm meeting at Panis to look at the restoration area with Briscoe, so probably 11:30.
Okay.
Okay.
Or I could do it before. I was going to do something else before, some other site visits, but I could do it before if you like.
Okay. Well, let's see what Mr. Green, if he's available, before or after you.
I'm actually out of town. I'm not back in town until Sunday.
Oh, you're out of town. Okay, so we'll have to
Yes.
figure out another time then.
All right. Contact Jane and when you're available, and we'll get a site walk with Jane and Judy and Dave and I, because I want to find out more about that swale.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll get it worked
All right.
out.
Okay.
All right, so if, Jane, a technical question, this is an RFD, can we continue it, or how are we going to handle that?
Well, he has to do something, and he requested doing maintenance on the approved plan, but he went way beyond that because the approved plan said that the area beyond the swale needed to be restored.
Yeah.
Now we don't even know if there's a swale. And none of the back area was supposed to have anything on it either. It was supposed to be restored as well. And the pavement is a little larger than it used to be too. So details.
Yeah, but my question is a technical one. It's an RFD. Do we have to issue a determination tonight, or can we continue?
You should do it tonight, except I'm thinking you should probably issue a positive.
Okay.
Because I know that during the hearing you asked about restoring, that he should, the previous one, that he should file a request for determination about restoring the area,
Yeah, okay.
which wasn't done.
All right. So we'll just issue a positive determination tonight then?
That's what I'd say, and once he comes up with some specific plan, I mean, this was instead of having him go the whole enforcement route and such.
Sure, okay.
So once he has a specific plan to restore the area, after you discuss it at the site visit, perhaps another request for determination should be filed for that.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I don't know, Jim, what do you think? Jim knows these things too. I think probably that's the way to go though.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right, and just, as far as what we cleared there, we cleared over close to the original silt fence, which is where I think the property was cleared originally. You could kind of tell by the growth. So we didn't,
Well, what did you clear? That's the thing. Did you clear vegetation and such?
it was what was growing into my gutters. There was a lot. I don't know if
Beyond the
anybody's been
swale
down
I'm
there.
talking about.
Beyond the swale, yeah, we went because the trees that were actually laying on the gutters were beyond the swale. They weren't.
Well, you cut the
They went on
trees
this
plus,
side.
right?
What's that?
You cut the trees plus,
just keep it open.
Right,
cut the brush and such, and cleaned it up.
Okay.
The trees that were laid in the gutter,
Yes.
we cut out, and then we cleaned, from where those trees were, we cleaned up. Like I said, I don't know if anybody's been down there, but.
Not even with the.
I've been down there.
I don't know.
So you saw the tires, the bumpers, everything
another
cleaned
one.
up.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we're talking about two different things, I think.
Okay, I simply bought the property and just trying to clean it up and neaten it up. We're not doing anything with the
understand.
land. We're just trying to make everything function like it was designed. Nothing more. We're not paving anything. We're just cleaning it all up because it was quite a mess.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it was a mess, but the design called for the swale in there, and I see no sign of it. So until we get that squared away, I think my feeling is we should probably issue a positive, and then if you want to, after we meet, you can file another request at a later date with some better plans.
Okay.
Then you can sort of laser in on really what the request is, as opposed to having other things that may be a need to incorporate into what the plan is, what he wants to do out there after you guys visit the site and talk.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to issue a positive determination.
Okay. Do I hear a
Second motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right, we'll do a site visit and get together with you, and then we'll go from there, sir.
so when
Okay,
are
thank
you
you.
going, when are you going to be back?
I'll be back on Sunday.
On Sunday? Okay. So that's the 7th? Are you talking about the 7th?
Well, you'll meet with Jane contact Jane and make a date to get out there.
Yeah, but he's
Also,
not
Bob, can I clarify? Restore and clean up are two different things in the wetland world. So cleaning up is one thing, and it's good. We want everyone to be good stewards to their property. It's when you start getting into all of the vegetation and such, particularly within 25 feet of any wetland, that it's
Judy.
cleanup versus restoring with native plants, basically.
See, my
Or allowing
problem,
native plants to grow.
agreed, Jane. I'm going to be gone on June 8th for about a week. So I think Mr. Green's coming back on the 7th, and I'm going to be gone on the 8th.
Okay.
I could meet in the morning on the 8th. I'm not leaving till probably the afternoon,
Okay.
if that works.
All right.
Then I'll be gone a week.
That work for you, Jane? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right. We'll
So
set up
I'll-
a time. Okay.
So that, all right, Jane, so I'll just send you an email this week?
As to time or what? For in the
Yes.
morning?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay,
Thanks a
thank
lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, David. 335 South Street.
Foxborough Conservation Commission, notice of public hearing pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267. The Conservation Commission will open the public meeting on Monday, June 1st, 2020, at 7:30 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, on a request for determination of applicability filed by Cassidy Badessa for construction of a 24 by 40 foot garage at 335 South Street, assesses map 153, parcel 35, within 200 feet of a riverfront wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office at Town Hall, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. This notice also can be found at the Massachusetts Newspaper Publishers Association website.
Thank you. Good evening. You want to tell us what your plans are?
Sure. My name is Cassidy Badessa. I lived at 335 South Street for the last 10 years. I'm here to discuss with you all our concerns with adding a garage on my property. Our property abuts Morton's Brook, and before we started, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any issues with anything. The proposed location is already yard, so there will be no trees or shrubbery getting disturbed at that point. There is a ledge that falls off, so there won't be any concerns with water going a different path or anything like that. Jane and Diana have been helping me fill out this application. I wasn't too good with it, so they were very helpful. I put a little blip in the WPA form of why we want to put it where we had it. There is a bigger shed on my property, kind of in the middle of the yard. So the plan is to get approved for this garage, which will offset it on the left, because it is a multifamily, so my tenants still need somewhere. We're trying not to put it in the center of the property so they have the walkway to use. So if we're able to build a garage where we want to, the existing garage would be demolished, and that would open up a yard more for our young family and things along that nature.
Okay, are you calling the existing garage the shed that's there?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay, I don't know if you've got that new doorbell. You probably saw my face out there. I was out
Yes.
there.
Yeah, I was at work, so and she was on a conference call all day, so we couldn't.
Oh, okay.
So we saw you.
All right.
The baby slept through it all too, so it was great.
Oh, all the dog barking and
with the
everything?
The dog, yes.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
They knew I was
That
there.
is some
Sleeps just like me. It's
sleepy-
great.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how sleeping but like a baby comes from.
Yeah.
Now, are the stakes that you've got in the ground there, is that where the exact location?
Correct,
of the
that's the
garage?
rough location. I did file an application with the ZBA, and they have the proper plot plan. I kind of hand drew it a little bit on a map I had from, I think it was an old septic reading at that
Yeah.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is the proposed location if it's approved.
Okay. Now, not that it's our jurisdiction, but is there a size limit for a garage in town?
Per the ZBA, anything over 625, I have to go in front of them because it's considered oversized.
Okay, but this isn't considered oversized?
It is, yeah.
Oh.
It's
So going to the ZBA is 18.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The size of the garage might change.
Okay,
Based on the size, just based on where they want to
all right.
Yeah, I just, when I built a garage, I thought the maximum you could build was 24 by 24 or something.
I'm still waiting. I mean, it is a multifamily, so we're trying to fit 4 cars in there. I have a ride-on lawnmower, a motorcycle, a snow blower. So we're trying to get everything out of the elements, a snow plow for my truck. So we're trying to make sure, you always hear people say, oh, I wish my garage was bigger. So we're trying to, 24 by 40 works for us. I have a big truck, she has a bigger SUV. You know, we do have one child, we're planning on expanding in the future, so we want to make sure we have room for the kids' toys and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean? So,
And you're gonna be going to the ZBA for that, so.
Correct.
That was just one of the questions
Yeah.
I was wondering about.
As I say, it's not our jurisdiction, but we're
Yeah.
just curious.
yes,
So it will not get larger, it could possibly get smaller.
correct.
Okay. And as you noted, it's all grass there at the present.
Correct, yes.
So are you planning to take any trees down or just?
Not right now. I mean, we'll know more when they go, if we get approved, when they go to dig the foundation. I'm hoping there's no roots or anything, but we don't have no plans at this point.
Okay.
Well, there will be roots.
I'm hoping, my point was, I'm hoping that we don't compromise anything by when we dig down. you know?
Right, the big oak tree that's right adjacent, the roots are generally in the area of the canopy.
Okay,
So you're going to have roots in that area. And it is at the top of the bank. So hopefully, you know, the roots are kind of evenly distributed. But when you go in to cut go in for the foundation, those roots should be cut with something very sharp.
Okay.
So that you're not, they shouldn't be done with like a backhoe where you go down and rip out the roots, because if you want that tree to live, you need to cut the roots with a very sharp implement, not
okay,
rip them. And then your chances of having that tree survive are going to be much better.
okay,
It still might die though,
okay,
but because it looks like you're going to be taking out quite a bit of the root system, but
okay.
okay. But, I mean, it's good that you'll try to build it without taking the tree out, so that's, but that might help. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Jim?
Nope.
Awesome. Okay. David?
Nope.
Peter? Okay. Rich, any comments?
No, I mean, I went out there today. I don't know. The land that he's proposing to put the garage on, it almost looks like it's been filled. Is that a natural hill? Do you know?
It is natural. What happened was last year, we bought the house in May, and there was a lot of invasive bamboo. So brackets did come in and clear out a lot and refill it and reseeded it. So that's why it looks fresh this year. But all the way up to that garage, it was bamboo. So they ended up clearing it back to a certain point where we felt we could reclaim the grass.
Okay.
Like I said, we've been living there for 10 years, and when we first got there, it was pretty far back, but it slowly crept up, and we didn't keep up with it. So
Yeah.
brackets came in.
Bamboo is very invasive.
Yes. Even still, we're having some come back this year, you know what I mean? It's really bad.
Yeah, I did see that, along the edge.
Yes.
You're gonna have to keep working at it.
Okay. Thank you, Rich. Jane? Jane, any comments?
No comments except for what you said. My concerns would be if the land was found to need to be altered as far as topography goes. And that would be a whole different story. If there's no alteration of topography and if it's currently in a lawn area, although if it's a new lawn area, I'm not sure about that either.
Well, he just said it was the area that they cut the bamboo back on, so it's...
Right, right. I heard that.
Yeah,
but
okay.
It sounds like a new lawn, so.
That was always lawn. It was just, it wasn't cuttable lawn because of how invasive the bamboo has been over the last couple of years. But when we first moved there, I had my truck back there at a certain point. But when we didn't keep up with the bamboo, it kind of crept in and we kind of like, it was lost space at that point.
The thing about bamboo is it tends to grow on fill.
Well, it depends, it grows in disturbed area, and once it gets started, it's,
Yeah, like, I mean,
Tough to
as
get rid of.
you guys, a couple of you went out today, you can see it's over that ledge.
Yeah.
So it's still gonna always come back. We know that, but, I mean, we're gonna handle it the best we can at that point.
Okay. All right.
so if you're going to the ZBA when? June 18. Does that mean we had to wait, or I guess we have to, is this a request for determination?
Yeah.
I guess we would just do it
Well, our
negative.
approval does not,
But if the size changes, they'd have to come back,
yeah.
so.
Do they? Diana just said, like, it's only, if anything, it's only gonna get smaller, right?
It's not
We're
gonna get bigger than the envelope.
Okay,
So,
I see.
yeah, okay.
The footprint.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
okay, so,
I think we're good then.
just the thing of it is, if it gets smaller, move it,
Right.
Towards the old garage.
yes,
Understood.
okay. Somebody want to make a motion then?
Sure, I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? A negative is good, by the way. so
Excellent.
For you.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
We have a continuation hearing of 157591 204 East Street. Do we have anyone? Okay,
Hi, good evening.
good evening.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Chris. Yes.
This is Chris Lucas with Lucas Environmental. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
I understand I should be able to share my screen. Is that,
Yeah, should be able to, yes.
Oh,
Yep.
nice.
does that work?
Yep.
Yep,
Excellent.
you're all set.
All right, great. Thank you. I know it's been a while. Hope everyone's doing well and staying safe through this pandemic. It's been quite a while. Glad to see everyone tonight, even if it's through video. I'm on the meeting here with Adam Brodsky, the attorney with Drummond Taccio and Morgan, and we also have John Novak here with us, the project engineer from Conoco. I think we were last in front of you almost 3.5 months ago, and we submitted a supplement following the few site walks and the meeting. Supplement number 3, we submitted to the board on April 8th. Hopefully everyone's had time to review it. In the spirit of moving this along, we've provided all the information that was requested dating back to the beginning. And the supplement, you'll see on the second page, we have a list of all the comments from the commission and a short response as to where to find that specific information if you're so inclined, what plan sheet or other reference we have. Following that, we provided some of the Supporting documentation the commission requested for the mean annual high water, additional information. So we re-summarized the water stains and the watermarks we collected. We also provided a detailed table of all the bank undercuts, including all the specific areas that the commission asked for. We provided a photo log to that effect as asked by the commission. We provided a discussion on the emergent marsh. And I think at this point, this was one of the major points of discussion, was where the mean high water line was located along the cart path and near East Street. So happy to get into all of that detail with the board if you're so inclined, but I'd just like to flip over to sheet 3 here. Sheet 2 shows the overall project site. The area we're looking at is here. Can everyone see my hand, the little hand?
Yes, yep.
Flipping to the next page, sheet 3, what we did was we updated the plan set. So we have 4 sheets for the ANRAD application in front of you. And with our supplement, we provided 2 figures. They're not part of the ANRAD set, but they do show the mean annual high water, the water staining, and bank undercuts. So that's on record with the board. Mr. Chairman, I think you had made a comment about at the last hearing a while back, ask us why we were digging so hard on this area, which seems to be the primary and last issue of contention on the project. I think we still have a pretty significant difference of opinion on that than with Ms. Pierce. So what we've decided as a team is to take this shaded area. What we've done is highlighted an area here. This seems to be the primary area in contention. We have bank flag BF 122 here. I'm going to zoom in on this. Our opinion was the bank ran along here in this area, BF 1-122, 123, and 124. We added these flags EM 1, 2, and 3 to show the limit of where Ms. Pierce felt the emergent marsh was located in this area, which followed along to flag our delineated flag for the BVW A32 all the way along here to A39. So this seems to be the area in contention. This generally seems to be the area the commission feels is the mean high water. We believe it's here. So what we've done is removed it from the application. Our plans have been updated to show this area as not being confirmed, specifically just the mean high water line in this area. The applicant did mean it when he was saying that he would like to design a future project to address the commission's concerns. To that effect, we're hopeful that we can design any access roadway further up in this direction away from this whole area. That being said, if we need to revisit this during a notice of intent, we will. But at this time, we feel that we're hopeful we can move things out of there. If not, we'll revisit it. But we've also shown the riverfront area not being confirmed in this portion as well. This way, it'll give the client at least a sense of an approval for the rest of the site. So we have a locked-in constraint. The remainder of the areas, the mean annual high water line, the remaining BVW, the isolated wetland here, I believe we've all been in agreement on that. We still show the FEMA line per the FEMA mapping as required by DEP. I know there's been discussion, and we can get into that if the board would like, but we felt that several of the members, we believe, are satisfied if we read that correctly. But otherwise, at this point, we'd be seeking confirmation specifically for the inland bank mean high water line of the Canoe River from flag 100 to 122 and from 200 to 217, which will exclude these flags here in this portion. The associated bordering vegetated wetland with the Canoe River from flag A1 to A54, which will include this outer edge here of the BVW. The riverfront area as shown on the plan, excluding this portion in here, because it would have to be determined at a later date for development based on this area, if necessary. Bordering land subject to flooding is shown per the FEMA flood mapping and flood profile data. And confirmation of this isolated vegetated wetland, which is flags B1 through B7, and that there are no other resource areas on the site. We felt that in the spirit of cooperation, we could move this along, doing it this way. And like I said, hopefully we may never have to discuss it again. That being said, I will open up to the board if you have any questions, and we can get into as little or as much detail as you'd like. But we are hoping to move this along if we can and move into a project design.
Okay, thank you very much. Judy, you want to start, or?
Sure, I'll start. I'm I decided to write something up because I wanted to make my comments precise and, considering this has been a long meeting. So I am going to just pretty much go through what I've written down, and then I'll give this information to Diana to put in the meeting minutes. So you've removed the mean annual high water line from consideration in this ANRAD, but we've had 2 additional inundation events there since we last spoke in April 4th and April 3rd and April 14th. So, Jane and I have worked hard on getting this record together. I would like to have these 2 additional inundation events submitted for the record. I'll do that right now, and, it'll be in the record of these minutes. So, as previously stated in other documents, the Canoe River has overtopped its banks on average annually with the surface water up to, but not over the cart path. During these inundations, water levels were between elevation 170.5 and 171.0. Now, 171 was the previous mean annual high water in the previous application that was accepted by DEP. So all of these events that we have witnessed since 2008 have all been higher than Lucas Environmental's estimate of mean annual high water, which is 170.49. So after reviewing the bank undercut elevations from our meeting out in the field on September 24th, it looked as though the east bank of the river represents the most natural conditions for the area. The west bank is steep, and it looks like it's been disturbed by East Street construction. The undercut bank data points along the east bank gradually step down, which would be expected as the elevation of the river decreases towards the culvert. So U3 was at elevation 171.71, U2 further towards the culvert was 171.43, and U1 is 171.32. These were all undercut banks, and they gradually stepped down along the east bank of the river. So U1 is located just upstream from the area of the mean annual high water inundation area. And I was able to get photos of that point from East Street during these inundation events. I didn't go on the property. So Jane, can you put up the photos?
Yes, they should be there, are they?
Yep.
Okay, but I don't know, you might have to scroll. So photographs from the April 3rd event and 14 event show the elevation of inundation was approximately 170.8 on the 3rd and about 171 on April 14th. And this was based on the water level at that data point, U1, that I was able to get a photo of, and also analyzing the visual water surface and the microtopography that was provided by Lucas Environmental to us. So both of these events were higher than Lucas Environmental's estimated 170.49 for the mean annual high water. In addition, the photographs show inundation on the river side of the cart path, but not on the other side of the cart path on both these events. And this indicates that the surface water that you're seeing on the river side of the cart path is inundation. And it is not groundwater as was alluded by Lucas Environmental. So if it was groundwater, you'd have elevation, you'd have water on both sides. Okay, so the inundation that's been observed at least annually, on average, since 2008, were higher than LE's estimated mean annual high water. And there were probably a lot more events that we didn't even know about and didn't photograph because, you know, maybe Jane was on vacation or I wasn't around or something. Anyway, therefore, I would expect that the mean annual high water elevation, I have to take a step back. The frequency of a mean annual high water is estimated to be 2 out of 3 times a year, not annually. It's less frequent. So I would estimate that the expected mean annual high water elevation would actually be on the higher end of what we've observed, because these higher frequency events these higher elevation events would occur less frequently. So that leans it up towards the 178, 170.8, 170.9, 171, kind of the higher range of what we've seen. Okay, so the removal of the mean annual high water elevation from the ANRAD is an unusual request. And it's needed to determine riverfront boundary and calculate impacts and under the Wetland Protection Act. I would prefer to have this completed now rather than revisit this issue again at a later date. We've gone through so much. The information that we have here all now is all very current. So anyways, and in addition, it might be a moot point, it is for me anyways, because I disagree with the ANRAD's bordering land subject to flooding, which is set at elevation 174. And if this is approved with the ANRAD bordering land subject to flooding, it will be approved for 3 years. It'll be set for 3 years, no changes, no revisiting. The Wetland Protection Act regulations state that the bordering land subject to flooding shall be determined using the most recently available flood profile data under the National Flood Insurance Program, and that said boundary shall be presumed accurate. However, this presumption is rebuttable and may be overcome by credible evidence from a registered professional engineer or other professional competent in such matters. So Heidi Davis from the Mass DEP stated in a phone call on January 28th, 2020, that Jane would be considered a professional competent in such matters. Jane took photographs following the floodwaters, showing that floodwaters rose high enough to exceed the 174 FEMA flood elevation in March of 2010. The precipitation rate for that March storm was 5.57 inches over a period of 46 hours, which is considerably less than the 7 inches in 24 hours, which is the Mass DEP standard for the 100-year storm event. I mean, that storm was like a 10-year storm event that caused it to go over the FEMA flood elevation. It does not appear that the FEMA flood elevation is correct, and it's not accurate. It should be reevaluated, particularly when considering the impacts of potential future projects, infrastructure like a bridge or a culvert, which may be located in the flood zone. I don't know how we can approve, the FEMA, this elevation, the bordering land subject to flooding, when we know it is wrong. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, Judy, just a question. Is that
Yes.
170.4 or 174?
174, the FEMA?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 174.
Okay, it's not
Sorry.
170.4.
No.
Okay, all right. I just
Sorry if I said that.
No, you said 174, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if you meant 170.4. That's
No.
big difference. Okay, all right.
So I'll give this to Diana for the record, and along with the photos.
Chris, would you like to respond, or?
Chris, would it be appropriate if I responded, and this is Adam Brodsky speaking?
Sure.
That would be fine. Thanks, Adam.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone. Good evening, and thank you very much for still being here at this late hour, so I'll try and be brief. It's not unusual in an ANRAD process for the applicant to request that only certain resource areas be delineated and others not delineated. And the recommendation of the MACC is that when that occurs, that the plans show the areas that are not being delineated, which we have done. So we've actually complied with the MACC guidelines to make sure that it's crystal clear what we've delineated and are asking to be confirmed and what is not. And I'm going to, with all due respect, it's not an atypical process. Second, with respect to bordering land subject to flooding, the regulations are pretty clear, both the DEP regulations as well as the town regulations. And in fact, the town regulations in this case are not more stringent, or in fact, more stringent. You look at the FEMA map, and under the regulations, if there is no FEMA map, and then you look to outside information. Under the DEP regs, and it's correct, the regs say that the boundary shall be determined by reference to the most recently available flood profile data prepared by FEMA. And in this case, we do have FEMA elevation determined with actual flood profile data, and that is what controls. And that presumption it should not be rebutted in this instance. And I should, and this is the point I really need to make, is that the presumption is rebutted and can be overcome only by credible engineering evidence. If you actually read all of the case law in cases dealing with bordering lands subject to flooding, the evidence is engineering evidence. Observations of flooding events are insufficient in order to meet the burden to overcome the presumption presented by the FEMA maps. So I know that there's some concern regarding the accuracy of the FEMA maps in Foxborough, but the solution to that problem is another exercise. There's nothing whatsoever to delineating bordering land subject to flooding on this site, which has been done in strict conformance to both the DEP regs as well as your local regulations. So bordering land subject to flooding has been accurately delineated in this ANRAD filing. And Chris can probably, or John can provide a more technical explanation, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood that what we did is what's required by the regulations.
Okay, thank you. Jane, do you want to comment, or you want to wait?
Not really. When I researched this before, we found that the FEMA, I can't remember exactly because I don't have it in front of me, but the FEMA flood profile was from a 1978 or something like that study that used computers that at that time probably were about the same size of a house. And there was other language that made it sound like it really needed to be updated, but this is so far out at the edge of the town in an area that is somewhat upper watershed and goes through a lot of conservation land and doesn't affect a whole lot of houses right now. I guess it was never updated for that reason. It just seems wrong that we have documented evidence that it overflowed the roadway at least a couple of times during a 10-year storm. Doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I have to say, I go with Judy. It's just doesn't. It's not logical. I've said it before.
All right. Any comments from the board? David? Peter?
I have nothing to add, no.
Jim?
No, thanks.
Rich?
No, nothing to add.
All right.
Jeff's there.
Oh, okay, Jeff's back, all right,
Yeah, I'm back.
okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add either.
All right. So what's the procedure? Do you wanna, Chris, you wanna, or did John wanna say anything?
This is Chris again.
Okay.
I guess I would ask at this point if we could potentially poll the board to see if you find the revisions we've made adequate. I know it's been a lot of discussion on the floodplain. I think we'd like to know where all the board members stand on that point, as well as if the other revisions we've made are acceptable, particularly, you know, we have the right to remove a portion of it. We felt it was appropriate to move this along. I understand Ms. Johnson's concerns about having it resolved now, but you know, potentially we may not have to revisit this. Seems like it would save both the town and the applicant a lot of hassle if we could move this along and avoid an appeal process. So we thought this would be a fair way to compromise on that point and revisit at a later date. So I think we'd like to poll the board right now and see where you stand, if you'd be favorable to approving the ANRAD as shown with the areas removed, as Conoco has indicated on the plans, with the female elevations as shown as well.
All right, before we do that, I'd like to see if there's anything from the audience. Any comments? Nothing? Mr. Hunt? Okay, all right. Anybody satisfied with the?
Well, after the explanation about the mean annual high water, this not being unusual, I would be okay with having that section removed, but I would also want the bordering land subject to flooding to also be removed. So it would have two of the resource areas be withheld.
Chris, is that okay with you?
We'd like to know what the rest of the board feels on the floodplain issue, and if they'd be okay with removing that portion as well, as Adam indicated.
Okay, I'll start with you, David. Okay, taking those out?
I thought they only wanted to take the finger out,
Yes.
Yeah.
and now you're adding something else, Judy?
No, I don't agree. What I'm saying is if we approve the ANRAD as it is with the mean annual high water out, the bordering land subject to flooding is still in, and that's wrong, based on records that we have of it being overtopped during a 10-year storm event. So if it's approved, that approval is good for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
The bordering land subject to flooding elevation of 174 will be good for 3 years. The only thing we'll have to revisit is the mean annual high water in that area. I don't want to lock in bordering land subject to flooding for 3 years.
Right, so this is Adam Brodsky, and we're very confident of our delineation of the floodplain. So we're just trying to get a sense from the other commission members whether they're also comfortable with that. We'd like to keep it in, but we'd like to hear your opinions before we move forward.
Okay. Are you satisfied then, David, or you? Well, I think
I'm just trying to understand Judy's point. If that resource area is not included, are you saying that will have to come back to us? Or that elevation is going to be for 3 years locked in, and whatever they propose for a project is going to be based on that?
Correct.
Yeah.
versus,
If they pull it out, when they come back with the NOI for the construction, then hopefully it's out of the operation. Because they want the mean annual high water out of it, so hopefully the design will be out of that area. So it won't be in consideration.
right?
So, yes, sir, and I'm sorry, this is Adam Brodsky, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's all right.
We would like to lock in the floodplain elevations so that we can begin to design the project, because it is based upon the FEMA mapping consistent with the regulations. We like to, and we have a respectful disagreement with Ms. Johnson as to the weight of the additional evidence that she wishes to bring to bear on that issue. We don't think it meets the engineering standard that's required to change that regulatory definition. So in an ideal world, we'd like to lock in the floodplain elevation, which we're going to need for design purposes anyway. We're just trying to get a sense from the other commissioners as to whether they agree with what we say the regulations require as opposed to another view. Before we make any decision to pull another resource area out of the ANRED, for which we may need client approval to do.
Okay.
Just to add one more thing, our town engineer and DPW director have been asked to do a engineering calculation for this location. And it hasn't bubbled up to the top of their must-do list yet, but it is waiting in the wings to be done.
Yeah, but how long is that going to take?
Just another piece of information, Bob. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Chris Gallagher just emailed me about it today, and he said that they plan on looking at it. I did ask him a while ago, to be fair.
Yeah, okay. Peter, any comments?
I know this has been an ongoing issue with the board long before I became a member. I've driven down East Street when I've seen the flooding and been affected by it, had to turn around. So to Ms. Johnson's point, if you have data points that are wrong because they haven't been redone in a long while, does it make sense just to be expedient and try to get a project done, to rush forward and not pay attention to the evidence that's before you, whether it's an engineering control or whether it's through personal observation or through someone as an expert like our town commissioner. We want to be fair to the applicant. We also want to be fair to the people of the town and the people who abut the areas over there. It's hard to ignore the amount of water and like the reason we're having all this discussion is because it seems like something just doesn't add up. So if we're setting I'm with Judy on this one. If we're setting in writing that the mean high water is actually lower than what it truly is, then that's a problem. So I'm not comfortable trying to go with the FEMA mean high water as it is if we have credible information that it seems like something is off.
Jim?
I have no problem with, the applicant has the ability to pull anything from their request. And, Adam, you're correct in that there are guidelines that are sort of been given by the ACC to confirm that on the plan. So I think you've gotten sort of a canvas of where at least two stand. So I think what Judy has requested to have these specific things removed, if your client would agree to that, I think that would make most sense. I think you'd have better luck in front of this commission.
And if our town engineer is actually going to take a look at this within a reasonable period of time, this might be able to come to some engineering professional opinion for that situation.
I don't know what he has to do to do that study. That's, you know, I don't know how long it's going to take him to do that. Even if he starts it tomorrow, how long is it going to take to do it? But let me ask Rich, any comments, questions?
Well, I guess I'm with Judy on this. I just, I mean, we have facts that are saying one thing, and we're just trying to avoid those facts. So.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. I don't have an issue with the proposed, request to remove what they were asking, because that's within the right. But I also agree with the comment that we have, observational data that shows that the flooding is, the FEMA flooding data is incorrect, and I think that needs to be either removed out or just addressed properly.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lucas, I think you have your answer.
I have one question, Bob. There's one item on...
Adam, I think... I'm sorry?
Sorry about that. There's one item on page 8 of your letter, your supplemental information. The applicant is requesting confirmation of the isolated freshwater wetland under the bylaw only. You haven't discussed this before.
It's that small isolated wetland
Right.
adjacent to the cart path.
Right.
The Wetland Protection Act doesn't regulate isolated wetlands. So we were asking confirmation, just making it clear it was only under the bylaw.
That's the one, if you're looking at the cart path, the one to the right of the cart path, is that the one you're referring to there?
Yes, I can pull it up on the screen
From
again.
East Street looking in, the one to the right.
Would you like me to pull my screen up again?
You could, yes. Not too much trouble. Is that Iceland?
It is. So, went on my honeymoon 5 years ago.
Oh.
Okay, so here's the cart path right here.
Yes.
This is the isolated wetland right here that we're referring to.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
It would be jurisdictional under the bylaw and not the wetland protection.
All right. That's what I thought. Okay. So going back to that, then I think you have your answer from the board, pretty much from the survey.
I think we do. If we're going to remove the floodplain, I think as Adam said, we would have to take that back to the client and we would have to request a continuance so we can have a discussion with him and make a decision how we want to proceed at the next hearing.
All right.
Or update the plans. I would ask, I would say I'm a little disappointed to hear that there were 2 events in April that occurred on the property. It would have been helpful if John and I were notified of that because we could have met out there or documented the information, possibly obtained some additional survey data to get precise measurements. It might have been helpful for us to analyze that. I'd also like to request a copy of the letter or summary that Ms. Johnson had that she read into the record today. If we could obtain a copy of that, Ms. Pierce, we'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Electronic would be sufficient.
All right. Thank you very much. So with that, shall we continue till the, was it 29th?
Yeah, June 29th.
Okay.
Make that motion.
Motion's been made to continue till the 29th.
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Got one from the audience. Did I get 1 or 2 from the audience?
It was 2.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Opposed? None? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah,
too.
you as
Stay well.
well.
Thank you.
8 Belcher, Scott Adams had 2 other meetings scheduled tonight, so he couldn't come, so he asked for continuance to the 29th.
All right, make a motion. Continue.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
I
Opposed? No.
Aye.
Aye.
Good, gotcha on that one. All right. Do we have Mr. Buckley for Lakeview Pavilion? Is he available? There he is. Oh, did you have some comment, Jane? Or Jane, did you want to make a comment?
About what?
I thought I saw you wave your hand. I don't know if that was.
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
Okay, all right. Mr. Buckley, you're on.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley, and I'm here representing the applicants. I'm the owners of Lakeview Pavilion. And what I'd like to go over with you this evening is an informal discussion on a notice of intent that we will be filing shortly for improvements on the property. For the most part, it has to do with activity to be done on the north side. So I'm going to try and share my screen here.
Oh, Diana, were you able to make a copy of his letter for me? Did you see my email? Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. All right. Yes, thank you.
So I put up here the as-built plan for the project. And this is actually the as-built as it exists today. After the work that was done in 2015 when we rebuilt the facility. So the area we're talking about today is, or I'd like to present, is the north side over here. So this is what we call the outdoor ceremony space over here on the north side of the building. So if you were standing in the front, looking at the front of the building, it's over on the right side. So this portion of the building already has an outdoor ceremony space. And what they'd like to do is to modify it. I'll go over that in a minute. There are two other things that will also be in that notice that we'll be filing. The first will be in the back of the building. Now I'm going to, well, I'm not going to do it yet, but in the back of the building, there's 9 pine trees that they would like to take down. They've been evaluated by an arborist, and they have been found to be dead. And in the arborist's opinion, he thinks that they are a danger. So those will be another item in the notice of intent we'll be filing. And then finally, on the last one, if you look down here on the south side of the building, so actually, if you're standing in front of the building on the left side, this is actually a depression where it used to be the driveway that goes down into the underneath where the kitchen is. And now it's a concrete walkway in a grass area. So what they want to do in that area there is to remove some of the grass, plant mulch along the top of it with a couple of granite steps off of the concrete walk. And then over here on the downside of the slope, for about 10 or 15 feet, they want to plant some ferns in order to hold the slope. That gives you a feel for where we're talking about in here. So let me just go back and find the next sheet that I want to go to. Is this one. And what this is this is a drawing that was done by the architect. And before I start this, let me just say that the reason they're looking to do this is because, of course, their facility has been closed now since the middle of March. So they have not any activities. And right now, at best, they think they're going to be able to open August 1st. So they still don't know if they can even open August 1st, and they don't know what their business is going to be like. So they might, like restaurants are being told, 25% or 50%, or whatever the number is. They're trying to plan for the future here. They're looking at different options of how they can run their business. And one of the options they came up with was making better use of the outside of their facility. So currently on the right side, as I just discussed, is there is an area out there. There is a gazebo out there. And if you, I don't know if you remember it, but as I showed you that drawing, this area all in here is landscape pavers, and then there's a landscape paving walk that goes back and out to the parking lot. It doesn't have this area to the right as you're looking at your screen. That's the area in that. But so what they want to do is they want you over here on the left side as you're looking at the drawing, and to the left, far left is the lake, of course. They want to fill in this depressed area and take out the pavers and plant grass. Right here in this corner, there is currently a little set of stairs that walks down to the lake. Well, it doesn't go down this lake, but it walks down and it lets you walk down to the lake. And those would be removed, and then the stairs would be brought further to the right and recessed, which means they'd be brought into the site instead of out of the site. And then this gazebo would remain a gazebo, but they're going to center it. It would be refreshed, which I assume means, paint it, clean it up, and then center it on the site. And you can see this area there. They want to put it in glass, grass, so that people could come out there. They're actually talking about maybe even some type of permeable pavers, like we use sometimes on emergency accesses. And what they're trying to do is let girls or women who have spikes be able to walk. Right now, it's difficult for them to walk on the grass. Then in the right here, as where I'm pointing, this area would now become, have landscape pavers, and then it would be a seated area. And if you keep flipping through the drawings I gave you, you can see some of the, how it's going to look. So this would be from the parking lot. This would be just coming in from the parking lot and the walkway. The next drawing would be walking in further. You can see the seating on either side and the gazebo down the end there. And this would be kind of standing at the wall, which is there already, and looking back at the gazebo. So what I want to do is go back to this drawing and show this to you a little better. It gives you a little better look, I think, of what's going on. So this area already, there's already a wall around it. It's a stone wall. So you get about here, and then it's a block wall that goes maybe to about in this location here. So the work would also involve raising these walls. Raising, when I say raise, I don't mean knocking it down. I mean raising them. This wall has some damage on it as well. So, but the walls would be repaired, raised in the same area that they are. They would not go beyond where they are now. And in fact, none of this work is beyond an area that is where it is now. You can see the 100-foot buffer zone lines. So here's the 100-foot to the lake, and here's the 100-foot from this wetland over here to the north, which is actually conservation land now that was given to the town as part of a project. So this is the activity of that. No tree removal beyond the wall. There's a couple of trees up here in the north, an 18 and a 22-inch deciduous trees that are right on the edge. Those would not be removed. We put some erosion control on the outside. In the back here, you can see better. What we've done is we've circled the trees. If you get a chance to go out to the site, we did a site walk a week or two ago with Mr. Bodie and myself. The trees are flagged. They're pine trees. In my letter, I included a letter from the arborist. His opinion that they needed to be removed because they're dangerous. They lose their ability to stand up, they slow down. What we're proposing is each of those trees will be removed, will be replaced with a mix of trees. These three types of trees were picked by the landscaper, and for each tree it would be removed, that tree would be replaced. The tree would not be taken out by the roots. it would be cut down to the stump, so the stump would remain so that slope would be stabilized. The trees would be removed through a crane in the front. There's no way to get back there. There's no way to take them down by sending a lumberjack up there. They think it's just too dangerous, so they have to go through the very, very significant expense of bringing a crane in and setting it in the parking lot and actually reaching over the building. Tree Tech does not even have the type of, doesn't have anything big enough. It has to be a special order, but they have to go to an actual crane company to get the size crane they need. Wow. Down here on the southern end here, again, I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better. This area down here, it's for the most part all lawn, even over the top of the ridge here a little bit. So what we want to do is we want to cut this back, put in some mulch. So mulch would be all in this area here. This says new pine, new oak. It's actually, they're already there. They're not new. When I was reading the landscaper's plan, he didn't write down new. But they're there, so he wanted to make sure that they were pointed out. So they would stay there. And then along the edge here, if you stood up there and looked over the edge, you can see it's kind of washed out. So he wants to plant hayseed and fern on the slope, and I know slope is spelled wrong, in that area there. And then in between would be, he wants to put some steel edging in that area separate. There would be 3 granite treads. Again, granite and treads are both spelled wrong. I don't know if I'm an English speaker. But that area where we go. So right now you walk in off the parking lot. This is where all the supplies go down to the basement, the kitchen. But you walk there. Now you can walk up a couple of granite treads, and they're on the top, get a nice pretty picture. The bride or whoever, that area. That was the purpose of that. So when we did the sidewalk a couple of weeks ago, we walked along the back here, and a lot of work. There was a lot of thought put into the back here, this slope along the rear. When we did the original reconstruction back in 2015. So a lot of the ferns, I think there's 1,000 ferns that are supposed to be planted there. And to my knowledge, Jane's, I think, jump in if I'm wrong, but Jane told me that she'd actually seen them planted and they were there. They're gone now, they're dead or they're gone. So that area was not maintained. And then the other item was there's activity taking place down along the water where brush and, small brush, it looks like maybe some small trees have been cut where they weren't supposed to. There's a path down here, which we've shown, this little 3-foot path. And there was no activity that was supposed to take place on the outside of that path, the water side, and there have. So what we did is we got the landscaper, who was a new landscaper. The other landscaper was relieved, and we went over with him in detail the plan, the landscape plan that was approved by the commission back in 2014 or 15. And I asked him to call Jane and coordinate with her in order to get that slope back to the standard it needed to be. What we discussed out there was that work needs to be done, or at least started, prior to us receiving any approvals in order to do additional work. So we've had the guy out there. We talked to them. He's coordinated. I talked to him again today. He's looking for these ferns, whichever they were. He's having a hard trouble finding them. He's called like 3 nurseries. I gave him another nursery or 2 to call. He's going to. But in his mind, he doesn't think, unless he can find these, that he's going to be in there till the end of the month, which is the end of this month, June. So, but that is, where we're at now. What we do want to file, we will file this week probably for the work that I was talking to you about. And the reason I wanted to come in and talk to you about it was to familiarize you with it, get input from you now, and hopefully have you think about it. Because what we'd like is we'd like to expedite the permitting, because again, the facility becomes at least August 1st. So what we want to do is to do the work while the facility is closed in order to, so it's available when it opens back up, and they can at least salvage some of their season if the state of allows these type of facilities to open again. So that's my stick, that's my story, and I was hoping to get some feedback from commissioners, Jane, so that we can move forward and expeditiously to get some of this work done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Buckley. Jane, you want to start off? Any comments?
Well, all of you have pictures of what I've seen. I've gone out there. I've spent a lot of time trying to help them out, and you have my report. I think that probably pretty much says it all.
Okay.
I can post the pictures on the screenshot if you'd like.
I don't know how many, I've been out there. Who's been out there? Says
It's been a
Judy.
while since I've been there, but.
Yeah, why don't you throw them up just for the rest of the crew?
Okay. How did I do that? Hold on. Let's see. Oh, here we go. So this is the condition of the hillside. This here had been planted with 500 plants, I believe my history document said. And then this is the walkway that had always been in the back. 25-foot no activity zone was up higher. And this whole area had been mown down. There it is again, with the path going up in here. So that was disturbing. We also saw keep off pesticides on the lawn area, which also didn't throw me.
Okay, that area is where they're going to put the mulch in.
That was up in here where we saw that it was, they had
A lot of moss.
gone past,
Yeah.
they'd gone past where they were supposed to work. So that's panning right down the slope, which has also been cut.
And I'm trying to grow grass in an area that is all shaded and inappropriate. I mean, it just isn't a good place for grass.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and this area here had been marked as the 25-foot no disturb also. So there you have it.
That is why it's the work, some of the work that we're proposing down in that area is based on what we talked about. I mean, as we did the walk, I had a very different discussion with you guys because we had a very different vision. And then after discussion with some of the commission members and Jane, they went back and said, okay, how can we remediate some of these things that were problems? So taking out the grass in that area, putting in mulch, putting in ferns. So that's one of the reasons why that had changed so radically from the discussion that I had with Bodie, with Jane, and with Judy on that site walk. So I'm not, as I said out there, I'm not defending what happened. Okay, all we can do is move forward and try and fix it. We have a landscaper, it's totally read in on it now, and and we will fix it. I mean, there is still an open order of conditions. We need to, if we ever want to close it or get a certificate of compliance, we need to make that work. So in that particular area, I mean, that's not part of this order of conditions this notice of intent that I'm talking about. That I was just talking about fixing that as well. And one of the things the landscaper did want me to talk about, though, is he doesn't think they're going to live if we don't get some irrigation down on that slope. So, right now they have it up on top where there's right next to the patio, but he doesn't think it's going to work just because of the density of the trees, excuse me, and the length of the throw for the heads. So he wanted to put some sprinklers in the slope, and he wanted me to ask about that tonight too, if that would be an issue. Personally, I don't see why an irrigation system in the slope would be an issue as long as it was done, smart. It only goes down 4 or 5 inches.
And the trees are being removed.
Those trees.
They're proposed to be.
Yeah, the 9 trees I'm talking about, right?
Yes, but there won't be a density of trees anymore when they're removed.
Well, we would plant trees to replace them. So you're right, they're going to initially only be 10 foot high instead of 50 feet high, whatever those are. But, that's what we'll replace them with. I mean, and we'll work with you based on the type of trees. That was his recommendation. But if you want to plant something different, I don't really care.
Okay, so the trees that are on the plan here were recommended by the new nursery guy or gardener or whatever his name is.
Mike Freiberger, I think. Freiberger.
Okay, he's the one that recommended these then.
Yes, he's the one who put them on. Yes.
Okay, I recognize a couple of them as being native, but I don't recognize this Caroline Silverbell as being native. So I'll just have to look at these and see if they're appropriate for the conditions.
That's fine. That's
And,
again.
Yeah,
whatever.
So are we still talking about blueberries? Is he looking for blueberry bushes for the understory? Or is he going back to the original plan, which was ferns?
So Jane, jump in here, because I asked him to coordinate directly with Jane, because why go through me? But my discussion with him was the fern. I thought he said 1,000 today, but whatever the number is, it was ferns.
Okay.
And he was going to revegetate that slope with the ferns as shown on the plan that was approved back in 2015.
They liked, the owners liked the idea of the nice floor ferns.
The what?
A floor like a slope, just completely ferned, because it's more of a neat, consistent look.
Of course, okay. Well, okay, so if we're going back to ferns, then they're gonna have to figure out how to water them and maintain them until they get established. Because they're just not gonna grow there unless they get watered on a regular basis. So.
Oh, that's.
Yes, and Bill said, you said something about putting in sprinklers on the slope.
Yes.
But when we discussed it, they were just going to add more sprinkler heads up along the base of the deck.
Well, that was a discussion I had with him today again, is he doesn't think that he doesn't think that's going to work. He just doesn't think there's going to be enough, I don't know what the correct term is. It's not going to throw the water far enough. He's not going to get the coverage that he needs. So he wanted to put another line down the middle of the slope so that he can water these things and they'll live.
Well, they could always put in a hose and a sprinkler system, a temporary sprinkler until they get established.
Yeah, I mean, those drip lines.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I think it's unrealistic. Look, I always want to do things that are low maintenance. So if we want to maintain vegetation on that slope, I think that the best way to do it is to run a sprinkler line down there. And then that way, it just goes on a timer and it waters itself. You're not relying on somebody to go down there and hand water it or remember to move the heads or, and really what damage is it doing? I've never, ever in my life that I can remember put in a notice of intent. I was applying to put in an irrigation system because it's just so innocuous.
Yeah, my only concern.
Not on a hillside like this that's so steep.
Yeah.
And we were discussing when I went to meet with the landscaper, he wanted to clear the whole slope to clean it up before he planted. And I said, no, just dig a little hole for each plant by hand. Because it is a very sensitive slope. And once you start monkeying with it, then that's when the erosion problems are going to really start.
The other point I'll raise, I mean, we're in a water ban right now, which is the first order of business we had with the wells. Like, we can't do any watering until September, they're talking about right now. So those of us that plan anything, we're all like, what do you mean? Like, we can't even handheld water right now. So just bear that in mind as he's talking about putting in irrigation for the summer.
That's a good point.
Yeah, my concern with the irrigation would be, sometimes you have those little heads get stuck or something, or one goes kablooey and it starts shooting out a lot of water. Anything like that on a steep slope, it could cause a big area of erosion. If something wasn't, if everything wasn't really precise and working properly, you could have some problems with erosion on that slope.
I can't help myself. I'm getting punchy. I think I can't. I have to say slippery slope. I mean, they say slippery slope. It's a very steep slope. You can barely walk up it. You've got to pretty much crawl.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just pointing out, they've already planted this once. So they planted it once, it's been planted, and really, it didn't get water it needed. Now we're going to do the same thing again and get a different thing. I guess we'll try harder if you don't want to do that, but just that in the minutes.
Well, I was just thinking, they do have those drip lines, that's all, that maybe.
Yeah, that would be a good way.
Something drip, 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 drip at the base of these plants.
Drip line.
It would be a temporary system.
But a drip line is, you basically are sitting them on the plant. We're not going to, there's 500 plants there, so you're probably not going to do it. If you have a problem with that, okay, we'll come up with a solution. We'll figure it out.
I know
you don't want to do an irrigation line. We'll figure it out.
Now you just know our concerns. It's a steep slope. It's not a normal place to put an irrigation system.
Yeah. I'm wondering if something more drought resistant rather than ferns.
I guess they want the ferns. I thought blueberries would be good. Blueberries are
I mentioned that at our meeting, and Eric seemed to think that they would prefer. I walked them over to the natural side as well. Eric seemed to think that they wouldn't like the blueberries so much, that the ferns would be more in keeping with their aesthetic.
What about a ground cover evergreen type? Low bushes.
There aren't really any
taller ones. The ones that go all over. I don't know the names of them, but
What are you thinking of? I don't think it's a natural.
What are you?
It's not a native.
Not native
planting.
Okay.
There are some native junipers.
That's the word. Creeping juniper. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Deer think they're yummy.
Oh, okay.
Even better. Judy,
Yeah.
held that one up.
All right.
It needs to be signed.
Oh, thank you.
So any other Any thoughts or any comments on the proposed work? Any thoughts on that? I mean, if you don't have any tonight, that's fine. I just wanted to introduce it to you. Feel free to call me after I file. I'd be glad to go out there and walk it with anybody again.
Say, Bill,
Yes?
the work that they're proposing, is there reduction in impervious area that they're looking at? Or is it basically neutral?
It is, we're actually taking up the impervious pavers that are over by the gazebo now, and then the walkway, and we're gonna be putting some, and that'll be grassed. And then further closer to the parking lot, that area that I showed you, that is gonna be pervious pavers that we'll place. So the area will basically be completely pervious now.
Okay.
There's some portion of it's impervious.
Yep, that's what I thought you were saying, so.
And then the other thing was, again, we're just trying to be, we just want to do it as quickly as possible. So I don't know when the next meeting is.
The 29th, later this month. So because of town meeting is kind of following up the works for us, so.
Okay. So what I'd be asking, and I'll talk to Jane about this, is if it's possible to get an approval that evening, and that would give them a month to get the work done, and have themselves ready to open, hopefully August 1st. So that would be my ask. And then, I don't know, I was thinking about this today. I mean, ideally, ideally we wanted to be in there this month doing that slope work, but I'm not sure it's gonna happen. But what I was thinking of is, I'll just throw this out, is what if I showed you a signed contract to do that work? So that you could have some comfort that it's going to get done as soon as possible, and probably in conjunction with the other work done too.
That would be all right, I think it would be all right with me. I don't know about the rest of the board.
What?
A signed contract.
It works for me.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
The only issue we have is the sprinkler system. If they did all the restoration.
How to water these.
How to get the plants watered, yes, but.
Okay, well, if Bill's willing not to do the sprinkler system and figure something else out.
Okay.
Might want to move this along so that they can get going and minimize their impact and their loss, their financial loss.
All right.
Yep.
We'll figure that out.
Significant for them.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I mean, I had the concern about the sprinklers on the hillside because I've seen too many of those cause problems on flat ground, let alone hillside, so.
All right.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. I know it's late. Thank you for staying.
Yep. Don't have much of an option, Bill, so.
Yep.
Thanks. All right. What's that?
Well, actually, I'm next, again.
Oh, we got another one? Another one?
Oh.
Yep.
Yep.
Panis Road, right?
Panis
I'm
Road.
gonna just, and I'm not even gonna, this is a request for an extension. Very briefly, this was originally approved in 2014, and then it was extended again in 2017. So it's coming up again in June of this year. We've got, and you have a report that was issued by Pear Corp on the restoration area and the replication area. And I'll just paraphrase that it appears both of them are doing well, meeting their 75% growth goal. We still have at least, I'm going to guess, well, who knows what's going to happen with this economy now, but the second building is going up as we speak. And with a little luck, the third building will be going up later this year. So I would think that this would be the last extension we would be asking the commission for. that gives us a couple more years to monitor these wetland replication and restoration areas. And we actually have another one to do over on the right side as you come into the site, which was actually 10 Panis Road forever ago. So that will also have to be done within the next 3-year period.
Jane, do you have any comments, reason why we should not extend it?
Well, Bill, I thought that you said that it had expired.
No, that's Lawson Farm.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. No, I don't see any reason not to extend. How much longer would you need?
Well, I would ask for the full 3 years, just so we don't have to come back. But, you know, as soon as we can get out of there, we will be. But I would ask for the full 3 years, so it would be June 9th, 2023.
I see no problem. I'm going to be going out for a site visit with Briscoe. It's supposed to be tomorrow, rain date Thursday. I'm asking if he would do it on our rain date because this is running kind of late and I don't think I could get out of bed in the morning. So if anyone wants to join us to look at the restoration area and such, it will either be tomorrow morning at 10:30 or Thursday at 10:30.
Okay, well, let's talk about the extension. So can we vote on the
Well, it's for the same place, Bob.
I thought you were meeting on the other one on Panis. Okay. All right.
No, 45, the 35,
Okay,
the 45
all right.
Panis with the restoration area.
All right.
So I see no reason not to.
All right. Well, can we vote on it then and get it done and get it out of here so we go home?
Good.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to adopt the order.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
David.
All right. You got your extension, Bill.
Good night. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Did
Thank
David
you.
leave?
Colin Dawson's supposed to be here for the
What's that?
acid lake treatment. Was supposed to have a guy here, Colin Dawson. I don't know if
Oh, okay.
Doesn't look like it.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I was told to stick around for the Cohasset extension.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
okay.
I thought that's why Colin was still here.
Oh,
Yeah. So I didn't know, we can just talk about that
oh, okay.
briefly.
Briefly.
Please.
All right.
Please, echo.
So I mean, nothing has changed. We're still managing the variable milfoil up there, the invasive plant. We're not touching any of the natives. This year is particularly bad for some reason. We already did treat, we got the permit from the state, but the order is due to expire, so we're asking for a 3-year extension.
Okay. Jane, any comments? You had some,
They're on my agent's report.
okay, you want to,
Yep.
did the client see what your agent's report said? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
But every time they ask for an extension, the commission tells them you have to file this, this, and this before you have a treatment. And they stress this over and over again. I went back and I looked at the history, and they did it last time. And we did not receive anything for the past 3 years until I asked them recently, or I think they were asked to do so recently. So I assume that the lake actually was not treated for the past couple of years. So I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm really rather disturbed by this.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not my project. I'm just covering for someone because I thought I was.
No, I'm not saying that. It's the Lake Association is responsible.
Yeah.
They're relying on Solitude, but they're ultimately responsible for complying with their order of conditions.
Right. Yeah, I mean, definitely need to do better in the future, moving on. I know we do all these reports and we send them to them. Maybe we just send them to you directly in the future.
Good idea, but it's been a chronic issue. So I'll leave it.
No, I understand.
I'd be inclined to say no extension, come back and refile. Just my opinion. I'm not a voting member. Gets old.
Okay.
I'll follow her lead.
And I'm tired and cranky, obviously.
Aren't we all?
Okay. Rich? Any comments? Did you hear me, Rich? Any comments?
He's still on mute.
There we go. Yeah, no, I couldn't get it clicked off. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm equally frustrated with Jane's perspective there that we're ignored constantly. So I don't know. I'm not inclined to give the extension.
Okay. Jeff?
So, I mean, I understand Rich's comment because he deals with NRCC all the time and they're doing great. So Colin, from your understanding, Solitude is preparing reports and providing them to the association, that's correct?
Yeah, we do it every year. I don't personally do them. Like I said, it's not my project, but yeah.
So, and based on what you normally do, you would send that to the association and then they're responsible for providing to us. So you're doing your job as far as providing those reports and they're just not following through.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe one of the project managers should have sent it to Jane directly, but
again, to Jane's point, it's really up to the association to make sure it's done. So I mean, and I know that they've done a bunch of things in the past and like doing the drain stuff that they were doing that without contacting us. So I don't see a fault on Solitude's point. I see a fault on their point.
Your voice dropped out. I didn't hear that last comment.
I said I don't see a fault on Solitude's side. I see a fault on the association side.
Could you understand him?
He said he doesn't
Fault
Solitude.
Yeah,
He's basically agreeing with us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if we deny it, Jane, then it's not on Solitude's, but on the Lake Association's responsibility, correct?
Right.
So.
Yep.
You're on mute.
Mute, Jane.
Yeah, no, I was saying, I thought I was not muted. This is an old filing. It's number 170.
Okay. So
when I came on, I said, we really need to amend this because it doesn't really cover all the requirements of the GEIR for lake and pond management.
All right. So you want to
Which was
notify?
done, but then they didn't do all the things that they said they would do.
Okay. So you want to notify them that they have to refile?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let them know.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a nice night.
You do. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, we should probably make a motion before we
Deny the request, please.
deny the request for an extension.
Yep, make that motion.
There's a
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? No. All right. All righty.
Jane wanted the Casket River Park. Have you used it?
What's that?
I think under miscellaneous.
Oh, the Cocasset Street Conservation Restriction?
No.
No,
under
but-
that.
Okay.
So Jane, tell me what you're proposing.
You're talking about the Cocasset River Preserve?
Yes, yes. How are we going to close that? I mean, anytime we put a chain on it, it gets cut.
I know, it's frustrating. The fellow across the street from the opening called me at one point before everything closed down, I think.
Dan
Might have been
Smith?
during
Was
my
it
work
Dan
from home.
Smith?
What's that?
Was it Dan Smith who called you?
Honestly, I can't remember his name,
Yeah,
but
it
he's
was.
directly across from the opening.
Yep.
And he was saying how cars come and go all night long at strange times, regularly, as if they're doing drug deals or something. That was his opinion. He said they used to lock the place up, the gate. There's a gate right at the opening.
Yep.
They used to lock it up dawn to dusk. If nothing else, I think that would be a good idea to start again. And he said that he would. I said, well, we need someone to open it and close it. And he said he'd be happy to do it. But the next couple of weeks is my biggest concern because all of the turtles in the whole area go there to lay their eggs. And it's just completely torn up. People are partying there, excuse me, using it like a dog park without leashes and cutting down bushes, the whole bit. So I just don't really know what to do about it, but it'd be nice to be able to close it for a couple of weeks, at least.
Are you talking about closing it for a couple of weeks, not even having it closed during the day too?
Closing the chain link fence area only.
Oh.
Not the gate at the beginning of the street then?
No, not during the day. So I guess I've kind of got two different subjects here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's late.
So I think it would be a good idea to have somebody, if he was willing, to close the gate in the morning, and like our hours are dawn to dusk, right? So to open it up in the morning and then close it at night. And that would take care of the night people, because they wouldn't be able to drive down there and be all secretive. And then in the interim, when the turtles are laying their eggs, I don't know the situation. If you can go put a chain around the door so people can't get in there. I don't know what the situation is down there.
I have in the past. I think I could do that. Oftentimes they'll cut it, but I need to put up a little sign. I've had a sign in the past, but I probably need to put up another sign saying why it was closed.
But they have a habit of, most of it's the neighbors, and that's their playground. They don't want it. Signs don't bother them.
Nope.
So, sorry.
You know, it'd be nice if people would be respectful and use it in a respectful way. But like I said, I mean, there were donut circles from some ATV or something that went in there, and there's all sorts of lawn chairs. And I observed about 10 people that looked like teens in bathing suits on my way home last week one day. And I counted 10. I figured, well, they're in the social gathering number, and they were probably seniors trying to have some fun for graduation. I don't know, but I didn't have to deal with them, so I left. What was I going to do? Yeah. It's a little frustrating.
Yes. See if you can talk to, I'm pretty sure it's Dan Smith. Talk to him and see if he can close those outer gates at dusk and open them at dawn and see, or whenever. See what we can do.
I mean, that'd be great.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, folks.
I mean, would that work if we put out a sign that said closure for 2 weeks or something like that, nesting season?
Yeah, I think that'd be good.
And then you wouldn't have to deal with the other end. Because there's no soccer games or anything, right? So there's nothing going on right now.
No sporting events.
So
A lot
you
of people do walk through there and bike through there, but I suppose they could do that if they're walking. They can walk through there anyway.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And for 2 weeks, I know fishermen like to use it, which I think is great, but for 2 weeks, they can go somewhere else, I would think.
Yeah, you have a protected species down there, so.
So
I'm
you
with the
think keep the
turtles.
whole gate closed at the street?
Yeah, leave it closed all day.
All right.
That'll
That'd be
take care
perfect.
of the temporary. You'll have to post a sign, though, as to why.
Right. Okay.
Okay, give it a shot.
Do we need to let anybody else in
Thank
the
you.
town know we're going to be doing this so that when the phone calls start?
Well, we'd probably have to let the fire department know. They have a key.
Jane?
What if there is a fire?
Oh, I know. Yeah, there you go. I think we use the same locks as the water department and the DPW, so they should have a key, but I should let them know too.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Just
All right.
keep all of our public safety people notified.
Yes.
For the turtles.
Yes, one for the turtles.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All
I
right.
didn't find any rare turtles last year. I'm kind of concerned. The only person to find one was Peter.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Not even the
Got
crazy turtle man from
prize.
Plainville was able to find him.
Oh, yeah.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
See everybody getting ready? Do I hear a motion?
Motion
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
A second.
Discussion?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Good night, all. Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Night, folks.
Night.
Hey, Jim.
Thank you.
Thank you.